Love Live is a big series. I've made numerous videos about the characters, the stories, and the series overall. Today, I'm going to tackle my most ambitious analysis yet, ranking every single episode. Before I tackle this mammoth task, let's lay down some ground rules. I'm going to be exclusively counting anime episodes, not any of the other Love Live media that could vaguely be considered an episode. This includes drama CDs, music videos, April Fool's stuff, and Leela post-credit scenes. There will be one big exception to this, but we'll get to that when we come to it. The closest thing to an actual anime episode I won't be including are the movies. This is because A, the first two movies would be above everything else on the list anyway, and B, the Niji movies haven't even finished releasing, so I can't exactly rank them yet. While on the topic, my thoughts on them can be summarized like this. The Muse movie, speaking critically, is the better of the two, but the Sunshine movie is my personal favorite. For this list, I will be covering the two Muse seasons, including the OVA, both Sunshine seasons, both Niji seasons plus that series OVA, all three Superstar seasons, and Genjutsu no Yohane. Furthermore, I decided it was justifiable to include both seasons of Nijion and its 6 OVAs. Along with the one exception I alluded to earlier, I will be ranking a total of 160 episodes. Hoo boy. This was such a massive undertaking that instead of writing the script up in Google Docs like usual, I typed it up in a private Discord server so I could work on it while away from my computer. So yes, I can confirm part of this script was written on the toilet. The ranking will be based around a standard ranking of S, A, B, C, D, and F. To help handle so many episodes, the middle 4 letters are broken into standard, plus, and minus versions. For example, C tier is episodes I feel indifferent about. C minus is for episodes I don't care for, but don't significantly dislike. And C plus is for episodes I'm mostly indifferent towards, but have something positive to say about. In addition, I will also be giving out awards to episodes for several different achievements. This can be for being the highest rated episode in a season or series, being the funniest, or having some other notable achievement. Oh, and see that asterisk in the top left-hand corner? If that's on screen, that means what's being said is an opinion. Am I saying I don't trust you to know that after clicking on this video? Yeah, pretty much. With that said, let's start at the very bottom with the F tiers. I'm defining F tier rather closely with the D tiers. While this section is rather sparse, there are a few episodes I do substantially dislike enough to warrant a placement this low. F tier holds the worst of the worst, episodes I strongly dislike and feel are highly detrimental to the overall series. Without further ado, let's get this list started with the most abysmal. When I started this list, I knew exactly what to put at the bottom. More specifically, there are 2 episodes that I find more detrimental than anything else to the series. If you watched this video by me, you'll probably know what I'm about to say. Genjutsu no Yohane episodes 10 and 11 are 2 of the most unique episodes in the series, in the worst way possible. For context, as stated in the before mentioned video, GNY was written by Toshiya Ono with the exception of these 2 episodes. For whatever reason, these 2 were written by a guy named Kakuzo Nanmanji, whose only experience is writing 2 non-sequential episodes for another Bushiroad property, Cardfight Vanguard. Their inexperience shows. I remember watching these episodes with friends, and they noted that Yohane doesn't really feel like Yohane in these episodes. I personally agree with this interpretation. The whole Yohane going away celebration feels obscenely contrived, and just an excuse to have a place for her to speak the conflict verbatim to the audience. It's both unfulfilling and extremely boring. Oh, and while the cliffhanger briefly gave me hope, the evil deer gets scared away immediately next episode, so yeah. I flip-flopped over which is the worst of the 2, but I can now confidently say that episode 11 is the worst one hands down. While episode 10 was boring as hell, the very end could have at least transitioned into something more substantial. Instead, after the deer gets scared away, Yohane blames herself for what's happening and throws her staff off a bridge. So now that we're at a moment of high tension and stakes in the story, what happens next? Oh, Yohane just mopes around and the cast puts on a magic show to cheer her up. Okay. Some of the jokes are funnier than others, but that's not the problem. There's supposed to be evacuations going on. Why is this happening now of all times? But that's not even the worst offender. Remember when Yohane threw her staff into the river? Well, Lilaps is there too, and she doesn't go after it. She then goes back to Yohane's house, where she has the realization, oh, I guess I really do need to get that staff back. She then goes back to the bridge and now decides to jump in the river after the staff, which should have floated way downstream by now. Oh, but turns out it just so happened to get stuck at the bottom of the river, so it's still there. Oh, but right as Lilaps jumps in, it comes loose just in time for her to chase after it. What the fuck is this writing? This episode is so frustratingly melodramatic and contrived at quite possibly the worst moment to be so in this season. Along with episode 10, these two episodes destroyed my hopes of me and many others that something meaningful would be made of this fantasy setting. Episodes 12 and 13 come off as Toshia doing damage control, although that could just be me. Part of me wonders if the ending could have been different without Kakuzo, but regardless, these episodes substantially drag down the season's conclusion. 159. Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 10. As for the lesser of two evils, Episode 10 is mostly just incredibly boring. Nothing of substance really happens, it's just Episode 8 a second time, but without any of the charm. While 11 should get the majority of the blame for negatively impacting the series, 10 still sucks enough to warrant the placement by association, and by the nature of it being boring. It's boring, it's really fucking boring! With those travesties covered, let's move on to our last F tier. While G and Y was a complete train wreck by the season's conclusion, the worst finale episode goes to a different series. That dishonor goes to Superstar Season 2. 158. Superstar Season 2, Episode 12. Was there a point to this episode? Was there actually? You know how Kanan had spent the last arc of the story debating whether or not to study abroad? Isn't it great that they spent 2 whole episodes mulling over this instead of focusing on, oh, I don't know, Love Live! Oh no, but then if Kanan leaves, she won't be around for Season 3, and we can't do that cause the higher-ups said so! Oh well, guess the entire season finale was just a waste of my goddamn time. What's worse is, like, the emotional climax has already long passed. There's absolutely nothing to gain from watching this. All this episode feels like to me is an obnoxious cop-out that Season 3 had to try and salvage somehow. What really makes this warrant an F tier is how much it exemplifies the inability of modern Love Live to actually commit to anything creative or risky. It feels like someone in upper management is just randomly screwing with the creative process on a whim to protect the brand or whatever. The same writer behind Muse and Sunshine also wrote for Superstar, so it's clearly not a writer problem. Somewhere, somehow, I'm convinced this is a Bushiroad problem. The closest thing to a positive that I can give this episode is Kiki giving a cute little howl near the beginning. Other than that, there's absolutely nothing of value here. Entering the D tiers, we have episodes I do outright dislike, but find aren't as series damaging as the F tiers. Starting with D-, we have episodes I strongly dislike and find moderately detrimental to the series. Pretty similar to F tier, but their overall detriment is a bit more localized to one season or a section of a season. The bottom of D- tier holds probably my most controversial placement of the entire list. If there is something else on this list you find more shocking, please feel free to share, but this one's special. See, I've talked about this particular episode in more than one video of mine, one of which actually inspired someone to leave a multi-paragraph comment refuting what I said. If this pisses off someone else too, I would not be surprised. I'm talking, of course, about Superstar Season 2, Episode 9. Yes, the Kiki Sumire episode. Once and for all, I want to put in the clearest terms possible why I despise this episode so much. I did actually give a pretty good partial explanation in my video on Season 3, but I want to take a moment to dig in further. For context, the drama of Kiki having to go home if she loses began in Season 1. It's not really mentioned too much in this season, but it's at least established as a factor. The fact it happens between Kiki and Sumire is also a great idea for the natural progression of their characters. When it's finally brought back up again in Season 2, it's actually done so in a way that comes across as a natural conflict. So far, most of Season 2 has been a lot of episode-specific conflicts with no prior build-up. Sumire playing the villain to try making sure Kiki doesn't get sent home, genuinely one of the best ideas I've seen come from the season. That's what really frustrates me. This had all the makings of a conflict, which actually had time previously to be introduced and provide some level of emotional payoff. It had the makings of a good episode. This is where the third edition of "the first years just aren't good enough" rears its ugly head. I will actually defend Hinako not being as good as the others earlier on, but we'll get to that later. The second time after all 4 members join? It's not the best, but it's fine enough, I guess. But we're reusing the same plot point a third time? Have the past 8 episodes just not mattered at all in terms of growth? The way this is incorporated is by having this be Sumerai's motivation to play the villain. In her eyes, because they aren't good enough, and she wants to win Love Live for Kiki's sake, cutting the 4 new girls out is the only way to have a winning chance. Do you want to know the reason she thinks this? Do you want to know what the entirety of this arc hinges on? They look at a computer screen showing the Chance They Chance Boy performance and say, "Oh no, look at the screen! Looks like we're still not good enough. Fuck off." The plot is really, they looked at a screen and felt the need to tell the audience that this is still a problem because we can't be bothered to show it? What? Why? What could have been a decent episode became one of the most contrived and spoon-fed plots in the whole goddamn series. Even if I think the Superstar Season 2 ending is overall a worse episode, the amount of bad and obnoxious decisions here genuinely infuriates me more than anything else on this list, even the F tiers. The only reason this isn't an F tier is because, objectively speaking, this episode isn't quite as detrimental overall as the bottom 3. While it arguably could deserve F tier, I find the negative effects to be limited to late Season 2. For that, I'll show a kernel of mercy and place it at the bottom of D- instead. I pray I never have to speak of this episode again. To complete the trifecta of terrible episodes at the end of Superstar Season 2, we have number 156, Superstar Season 2, Episode 11. Without being bottom of the barrel for a series, this episode still manages to snag itself 2 badges of shame, notably for being the worst Love Live win. The main reason for this is because for an episode where the group performs at Love Live, the plot is profoundly not about Love Live. Instead, the focus is on Ween and the Kanon plot, which goes nowhere because the higher-ups are cowards. While I think some focus on Ween could theoretically work well, the plot focuses so heavily on, oh, what should Kanon do next, that the emotional climax of 2 seasons feels like an afterthought. The other badge for the worst insert song is a bit more disputable. I did consider this for 1 or 2 others, but let me explain why it ended up here. I don't hate the song played in this episode, but I also don't remember it. While having a forgettable song is not a massive deal for most episodes, it's a lot more noteworthy when it's not pulling punches at what should be the big emotional climax. For that reason, I feel both these badges of shame are warranted. It's a boring episode with its focus in the wrong place at the wrong time. Moving away from Superstar for a moment, we have easily the worst episodes from an otherwise great series, the original series. Number 155, Muse Season 1, Episode 12. If I may be honest, the first half of the episode didn't deserve to be placed this low. I actually do genuinely love that Hanaka's overexertions actually have consequences. That scene where the other girls break the news to Hanaka is genuinely one of the best scenes in the season. The moment when Yukiko walks in on her crying is easily one of the most iconic and emotionally impactful scenes in Muse to me. But why'd they have to make the second half happen? Hanaka's clearly visibly crestfallen by this failure, and for a moment, it seems like this will be the big conflict the season's conclusion will wrestle with. Until... oh hey, the school suddenly isn't gonna close! I'm happy again! Let's all party! Yay! Never mind, Kotori is leaving, so now I'm quitting and sad again! Oh no! Why do they need to add a whole extra plot with Kotori when Hanaka's reason for quitting is right there? Like, if Hanaka quit because she felt she failed everyone, it could have been such a great season finale. Imagine if Kotori reached out to Hanaka like Hanaka did to her, reigniting her passion and driving home the series' themes about interconnectedness perfectly. Not only was the Kotori arc a complete disaster, which reversed her character growth in the Wonder Zone episode, it was just frustratingly unnecessary. I've watched the first Muse season like 3 or 4 times now, and something that never changes is how negatively I view the last 2 season 1 episodes. It's a blemish on an otherwise great series. Next we have D tier, our smallest grouping with only 2 entries. This comprises the last of the episodes I strongly dislike, with their negative impact being minimal or non-existent. The lower of these two is number 154, Superstar Season 3, Episode 8. My expectations weren't high for how well the group division would end, but it would have been nice to actually have someone declared a winner. It was pretty obvious from the get-go that a group merger was going to happen, so I can't say I was surprised, just disappointed. Whether the new trio or the original Lilo one, I felt there was at least something they could have done with that to be interesting. Instead, they play it safe for no reason and have a bunch of outsiders go, "Hey, you guys should just join together," and everyone just goes along with it. I don't buy that Ween is just willing to forego her motivation because the plot demands it. Like, her motivation around this point in the series just doesn't make a lot of sense. Above all else, I want to beat Leela, but also I want to join them afterwards. Oh, no winner was declared? That's fine. Guess I'll just abandon my main character motivation since we all want to join together. It's just one big disappointment. Oh, and as for the Natsumi Tomari fight in this episode, not a fan of it either. We already had a whole episode dedicated to this earlier in the season, but I can barely see any noticeable change between their interactions by this point. Instead, it just ends in one big crying fit that doesn't feel earned at all to me. Before I move on, can I briefly point out that later Superstar episodes tend to really overuse crying? Like, to compare the Hanukkah scene I mentioned earlier, she only really cries at times when it feels emotionally earned. In Superstar though, it feels like every other episode, somebody is crying over the most mundane and contrived points, and it lessens its value in the series. It's like cursing. If you use it too much, it loses all its impact. I'm not suddenly gonna get invested because Leaky Eye Luca over here is crying for the 10th time. Is this just me? I don't know. Let me know if you felt similarly. I haven't heard anybody else really mention it. As for its D-tier companion, we have Muse Season 1, Episode 13. Coterie arc sucks, but at least this one ends on a better note. The reason I didn't put this next to the previous episode is mainly because of the ending. And I really do mean the ending, not the scene at the airport. I couldn't care less about that. Having all 9 members reprise Start Dash in the auditorium with every seat filled is a nice natural conclusion to Hanukkah's goal established in episode 3. I do also like Umi motivating Hanukkah to chase after Kotori, but other than that, I'm just not a fan of this episode. As a conclusion to season 1, it's a mixed bag. While its existence is still a fair bit detrimental, Start Dash evens it out a good bit. I think top of D tier suits this well enough. Next up is D+ tier. Unlike the rest of the episodes we've covered, D+ doesn't factor in the effect on the series. It simply contains episodes I moderately dislike rather than strongly dislike. With 5 episodes contained within, this brings the total amount of F and D tiers to 13 total episodes. While I've been exceptionally negative so far, I promise there's just a little more ranting to get through. D+ starts off with the worst episode of Nijion, the 152, Nijion Season 2, Episode 12. One consistent thing I found with Nijion is that some episodes try to be funny and some try to be serious. While the funny episodes fit the bite-sized format well, when they try to be serious, it tends to just fall flat. Both conclusions to the Nijion seasons try the serious approach, and they amount to basically just a few minutes of, "I feel motivated seeing you guys do stuff." Enthralling. This episode is literally just you and Mia having a conversation about rivals and lifting each other up and stuff. It's generic and boring, so it easily ranks lowest in Nijion. And next, of course, is number 151, Nijion Season 1, Episode 12. The difference between the two is that in Season 1, after some equally generic dialogue, Yu does at least play a piano version of Love You My Friends. It's nice enough, but only lasts for like 30 seconds. I briefly considered moving this up to C- tier because of the song, but nah, it's still a boring episode. As for why I gave this the badge of shame for the most unfunny episode, I don't think a single joke in this episode actually landed. This award could reasonably go to many of these D tiers, but I ultimately settled on its placement here. Right above the worst Nijion episodes is the worst Niji episode, number 150, Niji Season 2, Episode 2. The main reason for its placement this low is that I've always found this one extremely boring. I remember actually getting agitated by my first watch, even considering it my least favorite Love Live episode outright for a brief time. In time though, I came to find that judgment far too harsh. It's still super boring and I don't really remember much about it other than, this is the episode that kicks off Quartz. While it's longer than the worst of Nijion, meaning I have to be bored for substantially longer, it actually has a payoff in the following episode, which is more than I can say about our previous 2 entries. Next, number 149, Genjutsu no Yohane episode 13. While it could easily be argued that this ending had a negative impact on the series, to me, most of the damage has already been done. The conclusion is really rushed, and Tono-sama just stops working for no reason in a futile attempt to create tension. But it was the previously mentioned episodes that really wreck the plotline of this conclusion. It's just a rushed finale doing what it can to defeat the calamity and show everyone having a happy ending because we gotta do that. And hey, it did make one big positive contribution to the plot. It ended it! Finally, at the top of D+, number 148, Niji Season 1, Episode 10. Easily the most common problem people have with this part is the Ayumu drama. I've often heard folks get annoyed at her at this part, but I just feel bad for her. While I'm not really a fan of this plotline, what bothers me more is how dense Yu is. Episode 10 is the worst to me, mainly because I just find it really boring. It's a little summer camp episode, if you can even call it that because it takes place at the school, which isn't bad, but nothing to write home about. During this, Yu is just completely unaware that Ayumu feels the two of them are drifting apart. The episode literally ends with everyone excitedly looking at the fireworks while Ayumu is just sitting with a sad look on her face. It's not a terrible plotline, but it doesn't make me happy seeing the poor girl get basically ignored. With the worst of the worst out of the way, we arrive at C- tier. This includes episodes I simply just don't care for. I'm not indifferent about them, but I don't dislike them to any substantial degree. This is the part where the tiers actually start to contain a substantial amount of episodes, and some like Nijion will go by much quicker than the first 13 we've covered. Number 147, Nijion Season 2, Episode 8. Kanata and a few others work for the Gamer's Store. It's kinda boring and the jokes don't really land, other than the part where Setsuna infodumps at the crowd at Mach speed. 10 seconds of significant enjoyment out of a 3-minute episode is not really impressive. At 146, Nijion Season 1, Episode 11. Yu invites Ayumu to go do a thing, but Ayumu turns her down because she wants to practice. Yu then proceeds to spend literal hours staring at her while she does this. It's kinda cute, but not really anything that substantial. You know, Yu, there's such a thing as subtlety. Number 145, Nijion OVA 3. I'm not gonna lie, until I started this ranking, I had no idea the Nijion OVAs even existed. They're pretty much just you interacting with the other members individually over the course of 3 episodes. They're really nothing special. Although to be fair, I couldn't find any versions with subtitles for them, so I had to rely on context clues to determine what was actually being said. I was able to determine a surprising amount this way, including that the third is the most boring. This particular OVA covers Shiriko, Mia, Lanshu, and Ayumu, and none were all that memorable to me. Number 144, Nijion Season 1, Episode 4. Karen infodumps and also tries to tease Shiriko. It doesn't work because Shiriko is very straightforward. That's the joke. Number 143, Niji Season 2, Episode 11. This one gets the prestigious title of being the most forgettable episode in the entire series. See, when I was getting to ranking this episode, even though I've seen it twice, I decided to rewatch it to refresh my memory. That's nothing too exceptional because I did this for a decent number of episodes on the list, namely for Niji and Nijion. So I rewatch it a third time, 15 minutes go by, and I completely forgot what happened again. I swear my memory isn't usually this bad, I just can't seem to remember virtually anything about this episode. I do remember one scene of the third years of the waterfront talking about graduating, but this plotline doesn't really go anywhere. While I really don't have much against this episode, its lack of anything memorable warrants its placement in C- tier. Number 142, Nijion Season 2, Episode 1. The most iconic part of Nijion Season 2 is the Victory Road trilogy. While the latter 2 are some of the better episodes, the first was admittedly kinda boring to me. I didn't find much of the humor to be funny in this one, which is a pretty stark contrast to my favorite of the bunch, which we'll get to eventually. Number 141, Niji Season 2, Episode 9. I'll be honest, I'm surprised this episode didn't end up in D tier. I decided to rewatch this episode to help gather my thoughts on it, and personally I don't find it bad enough to warrant D+ or less. That isn't a compliment though. Rather than be annoyed by the Lanshu plotline in Niji Season 2, I simply just didn't care. Despite the extravagance of Utopia in the first episode, Lanshu was barely relevant, let alone antagonistic throughout the whole season. Even if Cephas Lanshu got people mad for daring to make the Niji girls' lives harder, heh, get it? Lives? Like Love Live, like Love Lives, then she was actually an interesting antagonist. Here, she's just another character. Even if she's like, "Oh, what is your place here, you?" she hardly gets involved with the plot other than bringing it up and mentioning it once in episode 5. The only thing that really made me put episode 9 right here in the middle of C- tier was the bits dedicated to Mia. It's nice seeing the Rena connection with Mia transferred from Cephas to the actual show, even if it's nothing largely substantial. This wasn't a bad way to do a Mia focus episode, but it just doesn't engage me. Number 140, Niji Season 1, Episode 11. Like Episode 10, I'm not really a fan of this arc, but this episode is a good bit more substantial. For one, of all things, the cinematography is pretty good towards the end of the episode, providing a lot of unique camera angles to emphasize the confrontation and moments leading up to it. That being said, most of the episode is just a lot of Ayamu feeling like she's drifting further and further apart, which I dislike to roughly the same degree as Episode 10. I'm putting this one in C- though, because everything from the scene of Ayamu and Setsuna walking together onwards was really memorable. I gotta hand it to whoever was responsible for the camera angles, they really helped make the scenes memorable. Number 139, Niji Season 2, Episode 3. Much like its paired episode, the second half of this arc is also really boring. The sleepover part is a bit more memorable, but not enough for me to rank it much higher. The main reason for this placement is that the insert songs at the end are fantastic. Enjoy It easily slots in as one of my favorite insert songs from the season, and for a while I considered it my outright favorite. It's very bouncy and fun, not to mention easily the best of the 3 insert songs made for the subgroups. We also get a bit at the end where Yu plays a piano rendition of Neo Sky Neo Map for a piano class, which concludes the episode. While the runtime is mostly boring, the ending songs are more than enough to raise it up to C- tier. Number 138, Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 8. Generally, when I talk about Episode 10, I call it a more boring version of this episode. While 10 had the going away party, this one's more of a standard festival. Overall, it's not as boring as other episodes on this list, but the positives like Wonder Sea Breeze aren't enough for me to feel truly indifferent towards it. A lot of it boils down to, that's cute or cool, I guess. Like her working at the takoyaki stand, or going around seeing what the others are doing. The slice of lifey style just isn't what I was hoping to get from the latter half of this season. Number 137, Superstar Season 3, Episode 11. While Season 2's Love Live was frustratingly overshadowed by unnecessary melodrama, Season 3's is just sort of there. There's not much necessarily wrong with this episode or performance, I just didn't really care. Leela already made it to Love Live once. How is being the first group to win twice anything I'm supposed to feel excited about? Honestly, this could have been a lot more interesting if they lost in Season 2, because then they'd still have their main goal to achieve. We already got what should have been the story's big climax, so Season 3's Live, while nice, fails to get me invested. Number 136, Superstar Season 3, Episode 3. The amount of 3s in this one is completely unintentional. Anyway, this is the Shiki Center episode from Season 3. While it certainly has its moments, like Shiki leaving the bed unoccupied by Yuigao, I'm gonna be real, I was kind of disappointed with this one. The whole problem is that Shiki doesn't do well in the spotlight, and Chizuto wants to try finding a way to make her stand out. I had really hoped in the show that they'd utilize her interest in science and machines, and they do to some effect. This seems like the perfect time to do so, but instead Chizuto comes to the conclusion that Shiki's plainness makes everyone else stand out more because she's white? Like, I get that it's a metaphor and all, but how is Shiki boring? In the show, she's got this silent, chaotic energy that's often a driving force for various gags and goofs. Something about the way this episode was handled just feels like a waste of potential. I feel like an episode about Shiki's insecurities and shyness would have worked a lot better if the focus was on the science lovers aspect of her. Imagine a scene where Shiki shows off her stag beetle so the others can understand her love of bugs, but then it starts flying around and chaos ensues. I feel like that would be a really funny scene which could deliver a similar message more effectively. The plot we got ended up being really disappointing to me. Even if it's not a bad episode by any means, I think the placement it got is warranted due to my notable disappointment. Shiki's my favorite Leela character, and it's kinda sad placing a focus episode of hers this low. Number 135, Superstar Season 2, Episode 6. My opinion on this one is pretty much the same as most people's that I've heard. Hinako was bonding with Natsumi throughout this episode, and yet the plotline concludes by having Kanan come all the way up to Hokkaido out of the blue to recruit her. It really would have been nice to see Kanan impact Hinako and then, by extension, Natsumi, Unfortunately, that was not the case, and I don't really get why. I quite like the idea of Natsumi being greedy and trying to use them for her own gain until Kineko inspires a change of heart. It was going in a good direction until Kanan showed up and made it about her. This is the closest thing to character development Kineko gets after the first few episodes of the season, and the one time this wouldn't have been the case, Miss Main Character has to kick the door down to remind us who the show's really about. It's far from the worst offense of the season, but it's still disappointing. Finally, we arrive at C tier. This is the middle of the road, the episodes I feel entirely indifferent about. This also includes some episodes with pros and cons that accumulatively give them a net value of meh. Let's start off with a bunch of Nijion episodes I really didn't care about. Number 134, Nijion Season 2, Episode 10. Yu has a performance and Mia helps to calm her nerves beforehand. It's nice, I guess, but this one could easily fluctuate between C and C- tier. There's nothing really substantial or interesting to see here. Number 133, Nijion Season 1, Episode 7. Lanshu plays card games but has a terrible poker face. Silly Lan. Umi already did that gag, but better! It's cute enough, but at the end, Lanshu gets the Joker, then there's this really dumb moment where they try to be serious. At the end, the Joker is all alone. That's just like me. How sad. Oh, but here comes an extra Joker, so now it isn't alone. Hooray! If I had a badge of shame for the corniest episode, this would probably get it. Number 132, Nijion Season 1, Episode 1. The very first episode of Nijion introduces us to all the Niji characters. It's a simple episode that makes sense to include, but doesn't really offer anything beyond that. Number 131, Nijion OVA 2. This is the one-offs with Kanata, Emma, Setsuna, and Rina. It's still pretty boring overall, but I got some amusement out of the Rina segment at the end. It's pretty cute and silly, so it evens out. Number 130, Nijion Season 2, Episode 7. Shizuku is sad because she didn't get the role she wanted, so Lanshu tries cheering her up. It's basically just reusing a snippet of the Solitude Rain plotline, but it's cute seeing Lanshu trying her best to console her. Trying to consult her phone to do so shows that she really doesn't know how to do that, but wants to try anyway. It's not an episode I find particularly interesting or emotional though, just nice enough. Number 129, Nijion Season 2, Episode 4. Shiriko gets hounded by Ai to go out and about shopping with her. Like Episode 7, it's one of the we're doing something more serious than funny while trying to be sweet ones. My feelings on this are about the same, although I like the premise a bit more. Also, this close-up of Shiriko's face at the start is pretty funny. Number 128, Nijion Season 1, Episode 2. The Niji girls hold a cuteness contest between Lanshu and Ai. Some jokes land and some don't. I don't know, I just find other Nijion episodes to be funnier. Number 127, Niji Season 1, Episode 13. Since there aren't really any stakes in this episode, it makes for one of the weaker season finales. Mainly this is just a cute little finale to the season, which is fun enough. There is a rainstorm, which is the main problem of the episode, but it's hardly an enthralling premise. For what it is though, I think it's a fun enough conclusion to the first season. I'd still rather watch the Niji Season 2 ending, which I find handles this episode's concept much better. Number 126, Niji Season 2 OVA. One of the more interesting C tiers is this one, mainly because this is such an outlier compared to most episodes. Out of the handful of Love Live OVAs, only 2 entries can be found outside the realm of Nijion. Nijion was already comprised of short isolated stories, so they aren't anything unusual, but the remaining 2 are exceptionally odd. We'll talk about the Muse OVA later, but that Fever Dream and the Niji OVA both stand out from the crowd for their own reasons. This one stars Aimu's British friend, the adorable little skrunkle named Isla. She briefly comes with Aimu to visit Japan, if only briefly, which the plot revolves around. Also, this is the first time we see a cast change for this series. Setsuna is voice acted in this OVA by Koko Hayashi, the seiyuu who took over the role following Tomori's departure. This was Koko's grand debut in any Love Live anime feature, and I think she does an incredible job at capturing Setsuna's cadences without feeling like a cheap copy. While I have nothing but positives to give for Koko's performance, the plot leaves a lot more to be desired. While Isla is sort of the focus, the OVA makes itself into a character episode for Shiriko of all characters. She didn't get a proper character episode after joining the group, so it's appreciated, but it doesn't feel like the right time. While an episode involving Aimu's bond with her feels far more natural, the plot we did get was sorta interesting, but nothing I felt wowed by. It left Isla feeling a bit too bare bones as a character, making her one and only appearance kinda lackluster. Oh, and while this was technically longer than the average Love Live episode, that mainly was to accommodate the 2 insert songs. Feel Alive is pretty neat and catchy. Go Our Way is absolutely chaotic. While I do quite enjoy it, the crazy dubstep doesn't really fit the style of a Love Live song to me. I do love when Love Live goes out of their comfort zone for their songs, and I like what the song ended up being. It just sounds a bit to me like this. Yeah, I love doing fun stuff with my friends! Let's achieve all of our dreams! These pancakes are fucking delicious! So yeah, insert songs are pretty good. Overall, I think this OVA makes for a good midway point for this ranking. The mix of positives and negatives level out into one unique, but mostly mediocre episode. Speaking of OVAs, I gotta pause for a second and talk about something that happened during this video's development. I mentioned earlier that I didn't know about the Negion OVAs until this list's creation. Turns out, that was a mistake I made twice! The Negion OVAs I've previously discussed are those for Season 1, and thankfully, I discovered them before I got too deep into the project. I was still working on giving everything a ranking and assigning numerical placements, so it wasn't a big setback. Then I completed my list, wrote my script, recorded it, and began to edit. It wasn't until I reached the B- section that I discovered by complete accident there are 3 more OVAs! You're probably wondering how I let this slip onto the radar. See, I made sure early on to check the series for OVAs and anything else I could have possibly missed. It was from this research that I discovered the Negion OVAs previously discussed, which I didn't even realize were formally tied to Season 1. I checked IMDb. It only lists the main 12 episodes for each Negion season, no OVAs. I checked the Love Live wiki. It showed both seasons and, guess what, 1 set of Love Live OVAs. I checked my anime list. It appeared to be the same story. So with 3 sources seeming to point to the same conclusion, I was pretty damn confident I was not missing anything. Turns out, Negion Season 2 does have 3 OVAs to its name, and only one of the websites even lists this as the case. Can you guess which one? It sure wasn't the fucking wiki! Apparently, these were Blu-ray exclusive bonus episodes, and that's reflected by the fact that most sources don't call them Negion Season 2 OVAs. They call them episodes 13, 14, and 15. I'm still calling them OVAs though, because that's basically what they are. Ultimately, I settled on a format we can see here with the lowest in the ranking, number 125, Negion Season 2, Episode 14, OVA 2. The gang talks about lunch stuff. Not every joke lands, but it's mostly fun enough. Setsuna's atrocious cooking is easily the highlight, pressuring Yu and Kanata to eat it a bit more aggressively than usual. Honestly, I think this works better comedically than the blissful ignorance seen elsewhere in the series. So yeah, that's all I had to say on it. A third of the reason I had to go back and fix nearly every spot on the list. A third of the reason I had to halt video editing to write an entirely new section of script. A third of the reason I now have to record and edit even more audio. Do you want to know how long it took to record everything before this? 7 fucking hours! I do some wild things for this channel, I really do. Let's get back to the list. Number 124, Superstar Season 3, Episode 1. So while crafting this list, I wrote short little blurbs next to the episodes in my Excel spreadsheet. It helps me to remember at a glance which one I'm talking about, which has made the process a lot easier. I bring this up now because the blurb for this one is, WTF now, said Conan and the writers. That's probably the best way I can put it. While most of this episode was kinda meh, I do like the direction of Conan breaking away from Leela to help Ween. While it didn't have a good payoff later on, it at least gave us a bit of originality. That's something this series desperately needs right now. And now for a bit of a surprise. Next up is the worst episode in Muse Season 2. And it's not the Hanukkah fat-shaming episode. Number 123, Muse Season 2, Episode 10. I was really surprised by this one. I assumed the famously bad Season 2 episode would be the bottom slot, but no. Instead, Episode 10 ended up being at the bottom. For context, this is the episode with the New Year's Festival where Hanukkah and co are trying to think of a catchphrase for Muse. While there's nothing inherently wrong with this episode, I don't have any strong feelings towards it, let alone any memory to associate with it. I triple checked to make sure I wasn't missing something, but I really don't have any strong feelings towards this one. As for how I feel about the fat shaming episode, we'll get to that shortly. Number 122, Niji Season 2, Episode 10. This is basically a Launchu-focused episode of her trying to fit in and befriend the others. Rina makes a game where everyone goes about and looks for cats on their phone, but Launchu isn't good at it, unfortunately. It's got some sweet moments, and I can see someone placing this higher in their own tier list. For me, though, I don't think it's enough to warrant a placement higher than C tier, albeit just about at its top. Number 121, Niji Season 2, Episode 5. As for the true top of C tier, we have an episode that's near and dear to my heart, but for the wrong reasons. See, when Niji was first announced as Perfect Dream Project, Emma was the immediate standout to me. I figured her Swiss origin would be used like Mari's random English, giving her a unique flair. When I first got to watch this episode upon its initial airing, I was actually really disappointed. I found they barely made use of Emma being Swiss at all, and failed to make the episode's plot interesting. It made me yearn for a Love Live story centered around Emma. That was what inspired me to make Love Live Lunacy Episode 2, Indifferent Emma Verde. For those of you who don't know, that's my Love Live cartoon I made. Please watch it, it takes me literal months to craft each installment. What are we talking about? Totally not self-promo, anyway, Emma! Upon rewatch, while it's still not all that interesting, I think my initial judgment was a bit too harsh. Emma's little "Wano" is pretty cute, and she does actually get her own theme of sorts. I found out that Niji's soundtrack was released on an album called Sound of Takimiki, and on it is a song I processed for the first time upon rewatch. It's called Yujo no Nebai, and it fits Emma really well. Since the album is available on Spotify, it's available to listen to if you'd like. I can't bring myself to rank this episode in C+ tier, because I'm still mostly indifferent towards the actual content of it. I am going to put it at the top of C tier though, because I have a bit of affection for this episode thanks to its impact on me. C+ tier marks our first episodes that I have an overall positive opinion of, if only just. I'm mostly indifferent towards these episodes, but they have at least one or a few positives worth mentioning. Number 120, Nijion OVA 1. This is the best OVA from Nijion's first season. It's not a particularly high bar to clear, but oh, whatever. While mostly on the boring side, it was a little more entertaining overall. This one includes Kazumi, Shizuku, Karen, and I. The reason this is in C+ is pretty much because of the Karen section. Karen flusters Yu by teasing her, and keeps doing so relentlessly. Suddenly, Yu gets all excited, and accidentally flips the script, flustering Karen back. What was said to make this happen? I don't know. As I said before, I couldn't find a version with subtitles. Regardless, I thought the bit was kinda funny. Number 119, Nijion Season 1, Episode 5. This episode as a whole isn't super interesting, but I do quite like the Emma-Mia pairing here. It's neat contrasting the practical big ambitions Mia Taylor with the sweet and simple Emma Verde. I think the most interesting part is at the start where Mia offers her a big gig, but Emma rejects it because she just wants to sing and make others happy. The episode doesn't really explore this much, but the pairing is cool to see since these two characters don't do much together, if ever. Number 118, Nijion Season 2, Episode 2. Fun fact! Did you know the name Aimu is short for Ayurimu? This episode is proof of that. It's not all that interesting to me, but it gets its place here because just look at these two dorks. Number 117, Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 6. This is the Riko focus episode. I'll be real, I didn't care for the plotline of this one. Basically, Riko doesn't want to make memories because she moved around a lot and hates having to leave behind the people and animals she's befriended. It's not a bad plotline, I guess, but it just didn't resonate with me at all. Something about the conflict feels a bit unnatural to me, although I can't really put a finger on exactly why. The upside of this episode is that Riko acting like a huge dork is a joy to watch. I quite like that this side of her got to be explored a bit more in this spin-off. Number 116, Nijion Season 2, Episode 11. This is the final episode of the Victory Road trilogy, and Shizuku becomes evil! Woo! Well, I don't find much in this episode to be all that funny. It is a pretty creative finale to this weird little trilogy. There is one little thing I do want to make a note of here. Basically, Shizuku is like, oh, can I really be a school idol? And the others say yes, and she gets this few seconds of specialty animation crying tears of joy. Like, bruh, is this really that serious? Don't make me bring up Luca again! Number 115, Nijion Season 1, Episode 10. This is an episode all about Setsuna. The first half involves Kazumi trying to devise a way to get a reaction out of her, and the second half is a performance where the power goes out. I would give this a C, but I'll raise it up a tad because I found the first part fairly amusing. Next, we arrive at the lowest ranking episode from Sunshine, number 114, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 2. This is the part where I was gonna make a joke about one of my friends we called Guy, despising this episode. I was gonna say something to the effect of, oh, I know a guy who doesn't like this one. Which guy? Oh, you know, just a guy. She transitioned. So, yeah. So there is no guy. You don't get a guy. You are not the guy. You are not capable of being the guy. I had a guy, but now I don't. Anyway, the reason she hates this episode is because of what it represents to her. Compared to Muse, Sunshine's cast always struck her as overly designated to their respective years. This one in particular features the third and first years trying and failing to interact naturally. To my knowledge, she views this episode as taking the idea of more interaction between the year groups and just giving it the middle finger. I think it's a criticism that's somewhat warranted. While I lack the same vitriol towards the episode as she does, I do find that Aqua doesn't intermingle quite as well as Muse does. While interactions between the original series casts were pretty well rounded, there are some characters which barely interact in Sunshine, like Kanan and Riko or Hanamaru and Yo. I am going to push back against the idea a bit though. There are definitely times when Aqua gets cohesive and mixes characters together. We have important moments between Mari and Yo, Mario, Kanan and Chika, and of course the Ruby Daya dynamic. More on that later in the list. By the way, Stella, if you're watching this, I do gotta point out I know you from a Yoha Riko server. You know, one of the best examples of inter-year interaction. Your point is completely valid, I just thought the irony was rather funny. As for me, I'm not really bothered by this episode. It's on the weaker side compared to others in the season, but I do find it fairly amusing, so I'm putting it here. Number 113, Niji Season 1, Episode 9. This episode is the Best Little Sister contest, where the Niji cast competes to see who fits the bill the best. Rina wins handily by being the adorable scrungle bungle she is. I am not immune to Rina doing cute things. 112, Niji Season 2, Episode 5. This is a Karen Kazumi episode where Kazumi tries plotting to surpass her rivals. Karen helps her learn to be cool or something, I don't know, it wasn't all that interesting. What puts this into C+ is the ending. We see Karen wake up after sleeping on Emma's lap. She then proceeds to groggily mumble, Emma. Number 111, Niji Season 1, Episode 6. Have you ever wondered what a Love Live Fall Guys collab would look like? Well, that's basically what this episode is. Rina makes a game called Rina-chan Run Runs, a not-so-subtle reference to the only Love Live mobile game. Rest in peace, Link-like. It's a neat little episode with a decent amount of creativity. While it's not really what I'd call funny, it is a fun little watch. Number 110, Muse Season 1 OVA. Initially, I didn't have an award or badge of shame for best and worst OVA, given that I went into this thinking there'd be just 2. I decided while revising that its addition was well warranted. I'll admit, I'm surprised 13 and 15 surpassed Muse's OVA. This notorious fever dream is a strange little addition to the original series. There's a section where Maki gets trapped in a metaphorical cage, representing her fear to open up and express herself in front of others. There's also this trippy scene where Ellie chases a strange shadow through the school, while all these weird lights bounce off the walls. Turns out, the shadow is a young version of Maki. I personally interpreted this as a manifestation of Miss Tomato's desire to make friends and have fun with everyone else in the group. As unique as this acid trip was, as a narrative, it isn't the most compelling. It doesn't explore much about Maki we didn't already know, even if it is nice to give her a proper focus episode. I may have ranked this higher in the past, but I have a particularly embarrassing memory involving this OVA. See, I once made a short video essay about it and thought it was a brilliant idea to share it with my class. Genuinely, what the fuck was I thinking? Thankfully, nobody can watch that embarrassingly bad video anymore, as it was on my old channel. I'm pretty sure I lost the original video file too, meaning the atrocity known as psychologically analyzing Maki Nishikino is now lost media! Number 109, Superstore Season 3, Episode 7. This episode directly follows the Season 3 Kiki arc. Basically, it's just a preamble to the awful merger episode, with some tension between the Onitsuka sisters. While most of the episode is kinda meh, I do like the little sleepover with Kanan, Ween, and Tomari. It helps give the trio some much needed cohesion, developing the bond between them and helping Ween grow closer to the others. It doesn't have that great a payoff considering the following episode, but I'm glad the three had some time later on to actually bond. Also, the bit with Shiki and Natsumi earlier on was pretty funny. Number 108, Niji Season 1, Episode 9. I'll be honest, I always found Karen to be one of the weaker Love Live characters. While there's nothing inherently wrong with her character, compared to bombastic personalities like Setsuna and Mari or gremlins like Kazumi and Nico, she's just not as memorable. This episode is a big exception. While generally aloof and only marginally involved with the others, Karen gets the opportunity here to participate in a concert on behalf of Nijigasaki. I like that the pressure of the performance becomes a bit much for her, giving the cast a rare opportunity to see Karen being vulnerable. The others are able to support her and alleviate her nerves, at which point she processes that they can be both friends and rivals simultaneously. You know, just like rainbow colors. So yeah, Karen's episode wasn't half bad. Most of it was kind of forgettable, but the finale was solid enough. Number 107, Muse Season 2, Episode 7. Now we get to the fat-shaming episode. Even if this didn't end up placing at the very bottom, it's still one of the notably weakest Muse episodes. While the plotline and general idea of this episode is kinda not that great, it gets here because of one reason. I'm talking, of course, about the scene, which is really funny if you close your eyes and listen to just the audio. The entire exchange with the golden rice is done with no dialogue, just various noises and physical comedy, and it's just really funny. Even if the rest of the episode is pretty mid, this is one of the most iconic gags in the entire series. I have to give it extra credit for this alone. Number 106, Genjutsu no Yohane, Episode 9. Remember when people were speculating that Lilaps is gonna die? The plot of this episode is that Lilaps is missing! The town, mainly Daya, gets whipped up into a frenzy looking for her. Ultimately, Yohane has a hunch and asks Daya to drop her off and leave her in a certain place. Lo and behold, Lilaps is right around there because it's the place Yohane first found her. We get a flashback which shows how this happened. It's sweet and offers some much needed backstory for Yoha's canine companion. We also get a moment where Lilaps' shadow is cast over some flowers, specifically a kind known as forget-me-nots. These flowers are used symbolically for remembrance, especially for the dead. This is the basis for which all that "is Lilaps going to die?" speculation came from. In truth, it was just symbolic for how Lilaps felt Yohane was drifting away from her and towards the other girls. It's an interesting ending to an otherwise meh episode. Number 105, Niji Season 1, Episode 4. I know a certain someone who will not be happy to see Ai's introductory episode this low. I don't really have anything bad to say about this episode, but the positives aren't overwhelming. I like that Ai introduces herself basically by saying, "Hey, this looks fun, can I be an idol? Yay, now I'm an idol!" What does an idol do, by the way? Like, that's such an Ai thing to say. It's a great little introduction to her character, which sets the mood for the rest of the episode. I also like that we get introduced to her love of puns because Emma Verde accidentally makes one. It's pretty cute. Not my favorite character episode, but by no means is it a bad one. Number 104, Niji Season 2, Episode 12. For those of you wondering why Niji never had a Love Live performance, well, technically they did. It's just that they didn't really show it and it features side characters instead. I don't really mind the concept of this one. It features Haruka on her way to Love Live, with Kanata being the focus character. Throughout this episode, we see both Yu and Aimu come to her for advice, while she works on a giant sign to support her sister. It's actually really sweet and shows off Kanata's nurturing side rather sweetly. Oh, and as for the main cast not having a proper Love Live, I'm okay with it. They get their own type of finale, which we'll talk more about later. Number 103, Niji Season 1, Episode 12. Compared to the other three parts of the End Season 1 Aimu arc, this is easily the most interesting. Unlike Episode 10, Aimu isn't just having a few moments in a mostly irrelevant plot. While there's some stuff about the upcoming festival, it's not invasive enough to have a detriment on the overall plot. The most substantial thing I remember that wasn't relevant was the gag with Kazumi, which is a plus, not a problem. Yu tries to communicate her goals to Aimu, but she makes it clear she doesn't want to hear it. She gets to briefly explain herself, which doesn't resolve the conflict, but does at least make clear to Yu what the problem is. After some encouragement from Setsuna, we get to see a sweet gesture in the form of a stage covered in flowers. The flowers in question represent unchanging feelings, a symbolic way of telling Aimu she isn't going to leave her behind. It's at this point they make up, and Aimu is happy to hear out and support her friend's ambition. Overall, I wasn't a fan of this three-part arc, but mainly, I wasn't a fan of the problems stemming from Yu being dense. It's the main reason the first wound up in D+, while the last got into C+. While some people get mad at Aimu for her behavior, I find that her overreacting does actually serve the plot well. The confrontation scene in the bedroom is iconic, and the resolution works well enough. Like, yeah, she overreacted, but God forbid a character does something they regret, right? Oh, and Awakening Promise is kinda mid, even if it fits thematically. Here's a pretty good one. Number 102, Muse Season 1, Episode 7. This is the first half of the Ellie recruitment arc. It had some good character moments with Orisa and a few funny bits, but it's not an episode I feel strongly about. I really don't have much to critique about this one. I'm mostly just putting it high in C+ tier because of personal indifference. While fairly substantial, I much prefer other entries from Muse, like the second half of this arc. Finishing off the C tiers, we have number 101, Superstar Season 2, Episode 10. This is the closest Superstar Season 2 gets to an anticipated climax that actually works. At last, the big showdown with Win and their competition to reach Love Live is nigh. How will our protagonists prepare for the fight? Oh, they're in Hokkaido again, okay. While the first half is not very interesting, it does at least serve the narrative. First and second years team up to tackle certain parts of the new song together, which symbolizes their biggest strength, camaraderie. This contrasts with Ween, a powerful force on her own, whose biggest flaw is her refusal to achieve what she wants in any way but independently. This is not so subtly hinted at as the reason Leela ultimately defeats her when the performances come. While the first half could probably get a C or C- on its own, the showdown bumps up the overall score dramatically. Edelstein is visually and compositionally phenomenal, easily one of the best insert songs in the entire franchise. The first few seconds have a particularly villainous tone, before a soft piano begins setting the mood. Then, lights shoot to the heavens, while the electric guitar and orchestra roar to life. It builds up to a bombastic chorus, where Ween flawlessly takes the show home. It's as much of a showstopper as anticipated, leaving Leela with one hell of an act to follow. Their answer is Sing, Shine, Smile. While I find it visually and compositionally can't compare in raw impact, I am actually rather fond of this song. Both inserts are some of my overall favorites in the series, with memorable compositions befitting each group's identity. As for the conclusion, I actually like that Ween refuses to accept the results. It really shows how stubborn and determined she is to achieve her goals, even if the clock has already struck midnight for those ambitions. This ending could warrant a B+ easily, but sadly the quality difference between the two halves leaves me no choice but to put it right about in the middle. If I ever remade this list, I could easily see this getting into the B tiers. Speaking of which, B tier entries are one I consider to be overall great episodes. A majority of episodes in this list fall somewhere here, more than F, D, and C tiers combined. Starting with B- is great episodes I have small issues with. Admittedly, the difference between this and C+ is minimal, just leaning more towards the positives or having gripes that aren't as noticeable. Perhaps calling these good episodes would be the best way to put it. Fittingly, the start of the B tiers is one of the episodes that most altered it. Number 100, Nijion Season 2, Episode 13, OVA 1. This is the best Big Sister contest. Emma wins handily, but not if Karen and Kanata have anything to say about it. Except Emma still wins handily. Mia tries to act all mature too, but no, not even a chance. They nominate Rina to give an answer, but she gets overwhelmed by everyone trying to pressure her and says the funny you line. Look at you over there, she's so proud. Ai ultimately steps in to help her friend and gets selected as the winner. But then, Kazumi announces the Best Mom contest! Emma wins handily. This is one of the more funny Nijion episodes. Most of the jokes land, and it's overall pretty enjoyable. Before moving on, I want to mention how much adding these new entries shook up the B tiers. Since I was going to have to do some revising and record new audio, I decided to make other alterations. There was a few episode placements I felt were too high or low upon revision. There was also 34 episodes in B+ tier, so I trimmed it down and upgraded a couple to A-. Maybe this was a blessing in disguise, because I feel a lot more satisfied with the rankings as they stand now. In fact, our next entry was one that dropped from B+. Number 99, Niji Season 2, Episode 4. This is the most substantial placement change in the entire list, dropping from 44th place to 99th, a decrease of 45. Youch. Let me explain why this happened. We're introduced to Misato, Ai's childhood friend initially created for Cephas. Karen runs into her while out and about with Ai, and the three go bowling together. After one game, Misato decides to sit it out, revealing to Karen that she's been in and out of the hospital. We see Karen and Ai do most of the fun things, with Misato just hovering around awkwardly in the background. Misato confesses to Ai that she feels she has nothing left and she can't tell what's fun anymore. When Ai asks if she had fun bowling the previous day, I half expected this to magically have a profound impact on Misato, but it doesn't. She just gets up, says she'll continue to support her, and walks away. I initially had this whole section talking about how realistic this plot was, how medical conditions are no joke, and Ai's optimism became trounced for the first time in Niji. The problem is, upon a recent rewatch, I couldn't help but notice how rushed the pacing feels. Both Asuna and Quartz got 2 episodes to cover their arcs, but Diver Diva was only permitted 1. While I still do like what the final product ended up being, this storyline needed more time to get fleshed out more substantially. It's the recognition of that fact that brought my opinion of this episode crashing down. Number 98, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 6. This was an easy pick for Sunshine Season 1's worst episode. It features the cast trying and failing to make a PV to capture the essence of Numazu. Somewhat humorous hijinks ensue. Ultimately, they realize while picking trash up off the beach that it's the community and collaboration of Numazu's people that makes it special. While it's on the weaker side compared to other entries in Sunshine, I think it's written decently enough and has some jokes I do find funny. Oh, and while pretty, the insert song isn't one of my favorites. Number 97, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 1. Most of this episode is just set up for the season. Stuff like, too bad we didn't make it all the way last time, and the school's gonna close down if we don't do something. It's not the most exciting start, but it does at least get things rolling well enough. Also, Kanon Princess Carrie, Kanon Princess Carrie, Kanon Princess Carrie. Number 96, Niji Season 2, Episode 7. My Excel blurb for this entry is, Shiriko saw her sister cry once. That's fucked. That's not a criticism or anything, I just thought it was funny enough to mention. I do like that as a practical character, her experience seeing Karuko's heartbreak dissuaded her from becoming an idol. It's also nice seeing Karuko inspire her to give it a shot ultimately. It's also nice just seeing Karuko do meaningful things in the anime, cause she's cool as hell! While the story is nice, it isn't really super enthralling. It's some of the details like Karuko and emotion, the song not actual emotions, that keep this out of the C tiers. Number 95, Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 2. Would you look at that? GNY upholds traditional values, like child labor. I want to know what led to the decision to make the second episode of the show be the get a job episode. Like, that's super out there, but I love it. Yohane goes around seeing what everyone else in town does, helping her to figure out what she herself wants to do. She gets the bright idea to become a fortune teller and immediately fails. Lamau. She ends up going around and doing errands for the local people, which pans out far better for her. I think it's a pretty decent episode, although not exceptionally exciting or interesting. That, and there is one big problem. Yohane made Hanamaru sad. That is a sin! Number 94, Niji Season 2, Episode 5. Next up is the 2 episodes comprising the Asuna arc. These are a little polarizing to me, with some pretty great highs and pretty low lows as well. The first part is slightly weaker to me. It begins with Ayumu trailing Yu after noticing her spending time alone with Shizuku. Look at her being all jealous and stuff, she's so adorable. I like that Setsuna spots her doing this, and just kinda goes along with it because Ayumu wants her to. As wacky as the situation is, it feels like a natural extension of their personality traits. Easily the most memorable part of this episode. The problem is, the rest of the episode is kinda meh. Lanshu shows up briefly and encourages Yu to quit the club so she can focus on her endeavors. Of course, Yu refuses, and the only thing meaningful is that Shizuku gets self-conscious. What exactly is she worked up over? Oh, just her Yuri romance fantasies of both her friends, of course. I find that these bits of humor and very in-character moments help the episode a good deal, but overall I'm not crazy about its entire length. Number 93, Niji Season 2, Episode 6. I feel pretty similarly about the second half, and honestly it only beats the first by a hair. The big funny of this one is the reveal to Shiriko that Nana and Setsuna are the same person. Like, the unnecessary theatrics from all 3 girls as they ultimately fail to be convincing is so dumb it's funny. What really gets this episode up here is Setsuna. Again, she's really in character here. With a scheduling problem threatening to prevent many students from being able to display their efforts, Setsuna reluctantly considers canceling the festival. Setsuna blames herself for disappointing the many applicants, but the other members help encourage her to give it another go. After a tough deliberation of trying and failing to find a solution, she gets the idea to combine the other open houses of nearby schools to create a multi-day celebration. While usually bombastic, it's nice to see a more serious moment where she struggles under the self-imposed pressure of trying to manage things herself. Her double life doesn't get explored much in this series, but at the very least we get this moment to resolve it somewhat meaningfully. Too bad I don't like Infinity R Wings. I've always found its composition fairly generic and not really my style. I'm not going to oversell the Setsuna arc, it's far from the most enthralling in the series. The overall length, like part 1, only captures my interest at certain parts during the full runtime. Number 92, Nijion Season 2, Episode 6. Go figure this would follow mainline Niji Season 2, Episode 6. This is the second, and in my opinion, the best episode of the Victory Road trilogy. Aimu has become the Demon Lord and the cast must find a way to defeat her. Oh look! Wanshu, Shiriko, and Mia are here to save the day, and they're way too slow. Following this, Rina puts on a powerful robot suit and cracks her knuckles like she's about to beat the shit out of Aimu, but then just tickles her with a cat toy. And it works! The cut from Aimu being tickled to laying on the ground is instantaneous, and probably my favorite gag in Nijion, if for nothing more than the fact it got an audible laugh out of me. Number 91, Nijion Season 1, Episode 8. Shizuku goes on a walk with her dog Ophelia, and bumps into Kanata and her sister Haruka. Some fun and cute things ensue, including the realest bit of on-screen text ever. This is peak Ophelia content. I'm glad we got to see her in action, especially because Sasuke only got a cameo in Episode 6 of the season. Number 90, Niji Season 1, Episode 3. While I find the Season 2 Setsuna arc a little weak, her Season 1 episode was constructed much better. It presents how she's willing to put others' happiness above her own, which feels more impactful than trying to create a festival schedule. The biggest problem I have with early Season 1 Setsuna is that I don't understand her motivation for shutting the entire club down. I get why she herself would leave to not get in the way of what the others want, but why disband the entire club against Kazumi's wishes? Surely the others could continue without her, especially since Kazumi intended to regardless. When taking on the Nana persona early in Season 1, she feels really out of character because of this. If the whole reason she quit was to avoid stepping on anyone's toes, why go and do that immediately in a convoluted way? While this isn't an issue whose blame lies solely on this episode, it does culminate here in a way that bothers me a little. Thanks to my ranking renovations, we get to see our first award much sooner than the initial draft. The award for the best OVA goes to number 89, Nijion Season 2, Episode 15, OVA 3. Initially, I went into these 3 elusive entries, assuming I'd get a similar experience to those in Season 1. I'm here to report I was pleasantly surprised. For 2 out of 3 of them. Sorry, Episode 14. There's 2 halves to this entry. A section with the cast in an arcade, and a section where they try a spicy takoyaki challenge. The arcade section features an insert song, but I couldn't find anything online directly stating what the insert is called. Thankfully, with a bit of clever research, I was able to independently track it down. It's called Level Oops Adventures, and it fits the humorous montage of the first half quite well. I especially like this part where Setsuna goes 0 to 5 against Rina. That made me crack a smile. The second half is a bit more but I like that it gives us a flashback in the style of the Nijion manga. I'm not sure if this was a panel used in the original or not, but either way, it's a greatly appreciated touch. Honestly, even if this gave me more work to do, taking the time to revise was the right call. Given its indirect assistance in improving the ranking, I'm more than happy to give Episode 15 our very first award of the video. Number 88, Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 4. G and Y decided for the first couple episodes to pair multiple characters together. Yo and Kanan make for a fairly natural pairing, being masters of the sky and sea. While the overall episode is a little meh at times, I like the creativity of certain parts. The mail system Yo utilizes is pretty fun, shooting out of a cannon and flying around to make deliveries. Kanan's main appeal here is her unique sidekick, Tono-sama. For those of you who don't know, Kanan's dive shop in the original show is a part of the real-life Awashima Marine Park. That building in particular is called the Frog House because, surprise surprise, it has frogs on exhibit inside. While Kanan has a few froggy references to this here and there, nothing beats a giant robot frog acting as an assistant. I wish we got to see more of him, but Tono-sama is easily one of the most unique characters of this spin-off. This, along with a pretty catchy insert song at the end, helped make up for the lackluster plot. Number 87, Superstar Season 1, Episode 7. This episode holds the prestigious title of being the highest ranked episode to receive a badge of shame. Even if it's my pick for the worst episode in Superstar Season 1, I could have easily swapped it out for Episode 8. 7 and 8 comprise the Ren arc, which has an interesting premise with an alright delivery. While I do enjoy this arc, I do have to admit the Ren's mom is dead plotline feels a bit odd. Like, having a dead parental figure be someone's motivation in a story can be a great motivator. In the context of a lighthearted story like Love Live, however, it feels more like this. This is my Love Live OC, Hazuki Blood Edge. She eats nails for breakfast and listens exclusively to My Chemical Romance. Her mother died trying to win Love Live, and now she is returned to exact bloody revenge. It's just cartoonishly unserious. Honestly, I don't think this plotline is necessarily incompatible with Love Live. Again, I don't hate this arc nor the premise. It's the whole Ren thinks her mom regretted being a school idol and forgot what she said about them part that comes off as incredibly corny. Number 86. Superstar Season 1, Episode 8. Again, I could reasonably swap both of these episodes' placements in this list. Neither particularly outshines the other. Number 85. Superstar Season 1, Episode 5. Jumping back a bit earlier in the season, we have the episodes of the Chisato arc. Unlike Ren's arc, Chisato's motivation feels a bit more realistic. I like that Kanan inspired her to set out and do something herself, which ended up being some good old dancing. With the other 3 characters away hanging out with Sunny Passion, Chisato has some time to herself to focus on her ambitions. It becomes clear over the course of 2 episodes that Leela needs Chisato, and Chisato doesn't want to go it alone without Kanan. Unlike the Ren arc, this gets a B-, not because of any substantial plot issue, but due to it just not being the most interesting or memorable arc to me. Fairly funny, but not memorable. Number 84. Superstar Season 1, Episode 6. This one I will actually give a meaningful reason for being the better of the 2 halves. The childhood flashback and the conclusion helped to really give it an edge. While these 2 parts tend to blur together in my mind, the latter had more of the substantial stuff. Number 83. Superstar Season 2, Episode 8. This episode gets credit for 2 things, having a really good insert song and a quality seen virtually nowhere else in late Superstar Season 2. That quality is cohesion. Unlike most episodes in this season, where a division of the years is emphasized for the plot, that isn't the focus here. Instead, this one is about finding a symbol to represent Leela. Interestingly, the group actually feels that it's most cohesive with the 9-member cast here than anywhere else in the season. We actually get to have characters like Chisato and Natsumi interacting with the Takoyaki smoothie fiasco. Crazy how not emphasizing division among the characters actually makes them feel like a real group. While I talked earlier about Sunshine's cast being somewhat relegated to each of their respective years, I think Superstar Season 2 is a worse offender. The second the plot isn't emphasizing these differences, the interactions instantly become more varied. While I don't think this particular episode was exceptionally amazing, it's a welcome change from the previously established but not that great norm for late in the season. Number 82. Muse Season 1, Episode 11. This is the episode where, to quote my Excel blurb, Hanukkah fucking dies. I've always seen this as the calm before the storm of the Kotori arc, and there's a reason why this gets a B-, unlike its pals in the D tiers. While we have moments of Kotori trying and failing to tell Hanukkah, it's honestly fine enough for the moment considering how foreboding this episode is. The real tension comes from Hanukkah pushing herself too far, getting a cold, and ultimately fainting at the performance of No Brand Girls. Over the course of the runtime, we see this happening at the same time as Kotori's dilemma. Together, it actually helps to drive home the feeling that something really bad is about to happen. Still, in the context of what happened in the next 2 episodes, it makes this feel like a bit of a waste. I could never see modern Love Live do something quite as ambitious as the main character overworking themselves, and ultimately being unable to get to Love Live as a result. It's such a great idea that had incredible potential, but it was wasted on the Kotori arc. I'm just glad Season 2's ending wasn't botched. Number 81. Nichi Season 2, Episode 1. This episode introduces us to Lanshu, and frankly, lives or dies by her. Ironically, I think she's at her best in this episode. Well, for the anime anyway. Lanshu actually has an integral role in this episode's plot, being excited to meet the girls, yet judgmental of Yu's decision to juggle helping the club and her musical passion. What really makes this B-, however, is the performance of Utopia. My first impression of this song was oddly one of disappointment. My second impression was wondering why the hell I ever came to that conclusion. Visually and compositionally, it's a gorgeous introduction to Lanshu. It captures her commanding presence in a way that doesn't really have an equal in the season. Even if Queendom shows up later in the season briefly, it's more of a cameo than an actual performance. This episode ends with Lanshu declaring her intent to keep working solo, encouraging Yu to stop supporting the club and focus on piano. I think it's a fine idea, but after this, Lanshu just stops being relevant for like half the season. Other than Launchu and her arc, this episode's just alright. Number 80, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 13. Rather than a bombastic show of victory, this episode starts with a Love Live victory flag gently waving. There's something I've always liked about that. They won, so what happens to them now? I have virtually no complaints with this episode. The emotional beats hit, the conclusion is natural and built up to over the season. It easily could get a B or B+, if it weren't for one very big problem. After the school is shut down, Chica sneaks in and looks around the place. Then, much to her surprise, everyone, including dozens of everyday students, are all in the auditorium waiting for her. What? We saw Mari leave to catch her plane, and it's heavily implied the other third years already left too. Chica didn't invite them to come here, let alone tell anyone she was coming to the school. Why are they here? It's a really contrived meetup that just kinda happens. Honestly, it's kind of a shame, because the wonderful story section at the end derails an otherwise great finale episode. I'm just glad the Sunshine movie was able to act as a proper send-off for the group, because this was a bit of a letdown, not gonna lie. Number 79, Muse Season 2, Episode 3. Think back to the episode where Leela and Ween had their big showdown. This is that concept, but with a far more interesting storyline. Instead, this is a showdown between Arise and Muse, playing Shocking Party and Yume no Tobira, respectively. I'm going to make a hot take by saying I actually enjoyed the Superstar duel more than this one. While all 4 songs are rather solid, I don't think anything can top the incredible performance that is Edelstein. Also, I use showdown loosely here because this isn't a match that requires them to beat Arise to progress towards Love Live. I think the stakes and inserts in Superstar give it a clear edge to me, but why is this episode higher then? Simply put, rather than a mostly generic training camp episode, we get some actual interaction and somewhat friendly competition between the two groups. Arise desperately needed more involvement in the story, and this gave them an excellent chance to do something other than stand in Muse's way and sing Private Wars for the umpteenth time. I don't have any valid reason to put it in B-, other than personally not finding it super interesting until the live performances at the end. The least I could do was place it at the top of the tier. B tier is super simple. I consider these great episodes. Unlike B-, there are no substantial or exceptionally notable problems with these entries. They're just generally great. Number 78, Nijion Season 2, Episode 3. Someone's gonna think I'm crazy for putting this over the Yume no Tobira episode. This episode is all about handpen. Compared to most Nijion entries, I find the jokes to land fairly consistently in this one. It's a really silly entry with a lot of silly antics to enjoy. Like this image of Kazumi. Tell me this is not incredible. I think the best part, however, goes to Yu and Ayamu. Yu decides to follow after handpen for a little while, and eventually gets led to Rina and Ai. Ai says hello to Ayamu, who was stalking Yu the whole time. It's actually really funny upon rewatch, because they put a ton of small details into this joke I completely missed the first time around. When Yu salutes handpen and first decides to follow, we see Ayamu with her back turned in the background. We then get a cute loading screen which, if you keep an eye out on the right side, has Ayamu's shadow appear for a split second. Then, right before handpen's arrival, you see Yu walking along with a strange shadow behind her. That's not a shadow! That's Ayamu! You know, Ayamu, there's such a thing as subtlety. Number 77, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 2. With the season just getting started, the plot hasn't really reached the heights it eventually does later on. Regardless, I think this is a solid entry with some good humor to be found from Chica's persistent attempts to recruit Rico. This inspired me to write a very cursed Excel blurb for this episode. It reads, quote, "Rico, please! I need that Rico-C, please!" To be clear, that is Chica saying that, not me, for legal reasons. Number 76, Superstar Season 3, Episode 4. This is the first episode focusing on the argument between the Onitsuka sisters. While the conclusion in Episode 8 is rather unsatisfactory, I do at least like this initial segment. Here we actually get some backstory with the two of them as kids. It gives some good reasoning as to why Tomari acts the way she does, at least here, not in Episode 8. Episode 8 is just dumb. Here though, it's kinda sweet and gives Natsumi some additional characterization. However, for my money, Desino, the title of Best Natsumi Episode goes to number 75, Superstar Season 2, Episode 5. Our modern age has seen the rise of the influencer trope, and it was only a matter of time before Love Live got one as well. Natsumi is certainly not my favorite Love Live character, but she is consistently pretty funny to watch. What makes this episode great is that she actively tries to profit off of Leela, but every step of the way gets punished for it. Sometimes it's because her back cracks, sometimes it's her getting winded trying to chase after and record the others. She's greedy but doesn't get rewarded for it, which leads to some pretty funny moments. Number 74. Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 5. The character that utilized GNY's fantasy setting to the greatest extent was easily Mari. While most of the cast had fairly similar personalities to their original depictions, Mari is practically night and day. Unlike the eccentric and extroverted OG, this Mari is far more lonely and reserved. She always struck me as an iteration of Mari who didn't have Kanan or Daya to keep her company growing up, thus ending up with a completely different personality. I think this episode depicts her rather nicely, with Yohane helping convince her to leave her bubble and interact with the folks in town. There's a really cool shot near the end of the episode where she gets scared and the camera gives us a close-up shot of her eye. That's always been the most memorable thing about this episode to me. Number 73. Genjutsu no Yohane Episode 12. Say hello to the single good episode of GNY's Final Four. Part of why this gets so high compared to the others is simple. A. It's not written by Kakuzo Jumanji. B. There's actual setup in the previous episodes that actually pays off here. It's not anything super exceptional like other character episodes we've been covering, but the reason for Lilaps' unwillingness to support Yohane does make sense. Having them mutually understand each other at the conclusion of this section thematically fits with the story and gives the late season some semblance of a meaningful conclusion. It doesn't save the overall narrative, but at least Lilaps gets a decent end to her plotline. Number 72. Muse Season 1, Episode 2. After the initial introduction to the series, this episode gives us a lot of fun Hanukkah and Maki interactions. Gradually, Maki begins to help them with composing their first song. It's an enjoyable watch and feels more substantial than most Episode 2 entries. Number 71, Muse Season 2, Episode 1. Swapping the numbers around, we get an equally substantial episode from the following season. It's pretty funny that everyone freaks out when Hanukkah says she's okay with not attempting to win Love Live. Of course, this is because Hanukkah saved the school, so she's content just hanging out and having fun with her friends. Ultimately, however, with the third years on their way to graduation, Hanukkah gets motivated to pursue it once more. Oh, and then she controls the weather, because of course she can! Number 70. Superstar Season 1, Episode 9. With all 5 members now in tow, the girls have one big task ahead of them, figuring out what the hell to call themselves. This is easily one of the funniest episodes in this season. Having them trying and failing to brainstorm, holding Kanan hostage until she comes up with a name, and the live stream, oh my god, the live stream. Easily one of the funniest bits from across the entire series. I don't think the overall work is worthy of a B+, but it's easily a B. Number 69, Superstar Season 3, Episode 2. While liking a good payoff later down the line, early on there are some fun things that come from the Leela split. This episode is one of them. It's apparent very quickly that this trio is not going to be like the Leela Kanan is familiar with. Instead of Kiki being the motivator for a nervous Kanan, the roles reverse and make Kanan the motivator for Ween. I think it shows good character growth letting her take up a leadership position to help inspire the 2 new girls. You could definitely make an argument that this is just her being a Mary Sue, but I think the plot is fine enough. Bubble Up is also a pretty fun conclusion. Number 68. Superstar Season 1, Episode 12. I think the Excel blurb summarizes this best as budget snowhalation. Honestly, I find Episode 11 more of a natural conclusion to the story arc of Season 1 than this one. I think the best thing about this conclusion is the fact that they flat out don't make it. They got second, which means they didn't qualify. As stated earlier, this is something I wish Season 2 did for its finale as well, as it does a great job here setting up the next season without attaining their goal of reaching Love Live. Here we have the lowest ranked episode to be the best in its own season. Number 67. Nijion Season 2, Episode 9. Does this deserve to be placed above the likes of the Leela Ween Showdown, the Utopia episode, and several other great entries? Not really. It's mostly here because, as stated before, I am not immune to Rina doing cute things. Rina and Emma notice that Handpen sometimes communicates by rubbing against people or other nonverbal means. The 2 of them decide to try communicating this way, and oh my god, it melts my heart. While short, it was cute and enjoyable the whole way through. That's the justification I'm going with for why this gets so high up the list. Number 66. Muse Season 1, Episode 6. Who is going to be the center? Everyone agrees it should be Hanukkah, except for Nico. And also Hanukkah! The cast undergoes a series of trials to determine who is best qualified to be leader, and despite attempting to rig them, Nico ends up losing time and time again. Ultimately, even if they never officially declare a proper center, most of the cast agrees that Hanukkah should be the spiritual center of Muse. It's a neat plot with a really funny execution. Number 65, Superstar Season 3, Episode 12. Much to my surprise, the title of my favorite Superstar finale episode ended up going to Season 3. Granted, Season 2 set the bar almost on the floor, and Season 1 wasn't far behind. While this wasn't an extraordinary conclusion, it does at least give us a fairly natural way of ending Superstar. The original 5 bid the new girls farewell by doing one last performance. It's a fitting send-off, as they perform the very first song Leela ever produced. In our timeline anyway. Number 64, Muse Season 2, Episode 8. In order to beat Arise, the group has to make an original song to surpass them. Nozomi suggests writing a love song, which at first doesn't fare well as none of the cast have romantic experience. She reveals later on in private that she had trouble making and keeping friends growing up, and really wanted to write something with everyone in the group. It's a great episode with a lot of sweetness in its conclusion. It's the perfect prelude to what would become the Snow Halation performance. Want to know something funny? There's another episode whose placement substantially dropped upon re-evaluation, and it's also from the second season of Niji. Number 63, Niji Season 2, Episode 8. For some reason, I actually put this as high as 21st place, but upon reflection, no, not even close. Throughout this season, Yu has been slowly figuring out what it is she wants to do. She knows she wants to pursue music, but with writer's block and the desire to do something more, she struggles to find that sense of thrill. Then it occurs to her that what she wants isn't just to make music people like, but to do so together with her friends, to be a part of their stories. After starting out as solo idols and gradually forming subgroups, growing closer together, the final piece of the puzzle uniting them all together is you. I previously considered this significant enough in combination with the insert song to justify a placement high in A-. To be fair, this thematic uniting of the Niji girls is done with Tokimeki runners and even features you as part of its performance. Ultimately, however, it's a relatively simple motivation, and the first half of the episode is kinda slow. I can appreciate how it creates some payoff for the season, but it's sure as hell not an amazing one. Oh, and here's how I initially planned to introduce it. If you told me that something from Niji Season 2 would make it to the A tiers, I probably would have responded with something like... I guess the last laugh is on me. To my past self, who thought anything from Niji Season 2 was A tier worthy. Number 62, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 7. Throughout this episode, we get some ominous foreshadowing in a few ways. Daya visits Mari's home to confront her, expecting what happened to them to happen to Chika and co. Mari expects it too, but sees it as inevitable. Later, Daya also tells Ruby to be strong before she heads out to Tokyo, which Ruby ponders about briefly on the bus. We begin to see the first sign of things to come as the cast comes across a formidable foe, Saint Snow. Not only does Leah intimidate them by straight up flipping over them, but when they show up again at the episode's cliffhanger, you know something big is going to go down next time. Oh man, does it go down indeed. Closing off B tier, we have number 61, Niji Season 2, Episode 13. This episode has gradually won me over with subsequent rewatches. Compared to Season 1's meh ending, this is unequivocally the finale Niji deserved. Sure, a lot of the episode is just characters getting to perform solo one after another, but it's the last section that truly gets the finale this high. We end up getting a heartfelt speech from Yu before we transition into the grand finale, Future Parade. For a series without our main cast aiming for Love Live, the most fitting conclusion for them is a grand festival. Having the main cast come together with one big epic song just screams Niji. Once it's done, we see a content Yu stare up at a rainbow from her balcony. It's a fantastic ending which, granted, could have been even better if there was more of an overarching plot to assist it further. Since there really wasn't, and the rest of the episode is decent but nothing exceptional, I find this placement to be a good compromise. Prior to the revision, B+ was by far the largest category, with 33 entries. It was perhaps a tad bit too bloated, so I upgraded a couple to A- and demoted a few others. Now containing a more reasonable 26 entries, it's still the largest, but not nearly as considerably. These episodes are still great episodes, but in addition, they also left a great impression on me in some way. This is admittedly a little vague, as this could definitely be said for many entries lower down, but I put extra focus here on them overall having strong qualities as well as some aspect worth acknowledging. Number 60, Genjutsu no Yohane, Episode 7. With all her newfound friends rounded up, Yohane tries planning a girls' night, but overworks and overwhelms herself in the process. There's some points with unique animation to demonstrate poor Yoha's anxiety, which I once referred to as Bochi-esque. You can see it, right? Along with helping Yoha to learn how to grow closer, the cast gets a chance to intermingle in ways not really seen much in Sunshine's original run. Number 59, Superstar Season 1, Episode 2. With her path made clear, Kanan prepares to become a school idol, only for Ren to immediately become a problem. Ren is wholeheartedly against them forming a group, to which Kiki suggests and acts in some pretty wild ways. These include suggesting Kanan drop out, and creating a giant protest float pulled by Kanan down the front walkway of Yuigoka. Just about everything in this episode is Kiki doing something funny or over the top, which makes this an absolute joy to watch. Seeing the two of them, three if you count Chisato, gradually improve and complete their song is really nice too. Number 58, Superstar Season 2, Episode 3. This is the episode that gives us our first formal introduction to Ween. Unlike Edelstein, which was held back by the rest of the episode being on the lackluster side, this entry has no such issue. We do get two brief glimpses of Ween beforehand, first on the playground, and then backstage. Taking the stage at the same festival Leela is attending, we are treated to a grand introduction in the form of Butterfly Wing. Much like Edelstein, the orchestra and powerful vocals make for one hell of an impressive performance. It's no surprise that Leela ends up taking second place, not first. Kineko blames herself for the failure, but Kanan reassures her that isn't the case. Luckily for her, we get a nice conclusion where Kineko gets her first real chance to shine as a member of the group. Number 57, Superstar Season 3, Episode 9. Speaking of Ween, here's another episode about her. This time, we're jumping way forward to just after joining Leela for the first time. She still remains rather independent, which makes her difficult to approach. For example, Kiki tries to bond with her over Love Live, but Ween expresses her outright disinterest. This does not go over well. There is one person Ween did make a connection with though, Aria. Kanan notices that her sister is able to bond with Ween while being taught to make an Austrian dessert. The name of this dish is Salzburger Nockel. Including an authentic dish like this helps to really cement a connection with Ween's home country. Kanan gets the idea to have Ween be put in charge of analyzing the group and instructing them accordingly. It's a role which, as anticipated, works really well and helps to truly form a full bond between all the characters. Even if the path to this point was a bit rough, I am glad Ween's character arc concludes on such a high note like this. Number 56, Superstar Season 2, Episode 1. I remember my first impression of Kineko prior to the airing of Season 2 was generally negative. I thought she was the most boring in terms of personality and design, but I quickly changed my tune upon my first viewing of the actual season. Kineko is an endless source of amusement during this series, and in the first few episodes of Season 2, that fact is put on wide display more than any other point. It's really funny watching all the shenanigans she gets put through, from Kanan getting overly excited about being called senpai, to Shiki's running contraption. The loud and highly reactive Kineko pairs especially well comedically with Shiki's quiet chaos. It's one of my favorite humor dynamics in the series, easily. Number 55, Superstar Season 3, Episode 5. You know, it's really funny that there was this whole arc about Kiki returning to Shanghai, and here she is, returning to Shanghai. Obviously I'm ignoring the clear differences between each situation, but I just found the fact I can say that kind of funny. Compared to the episode which shall not be named, the Season 3 arc concludes things in a much more natural and fun arc. We have this mystery where during summer vacation, the cast gets plane tickets to Shanghai out of the blue. The cast then flies there together, mistakenly assuming that Kiki has been kidnapped. It's a pretty funny story which ends with a final confrontation with the mastermind behind it all, Kiki's sister. The fact none of them realize the family resemblance is honestly pretty funny. Number 54, Superstar Season 3, Episode 6. The second episode of the arc gets the higher spot, and for one simple reason. It's because of Ween sliding back and forth across the screen. That's it. Something about it just made me burst out laughing the first time I watched it. Something about that smug look is just perfect. I could have talked about something else like Kiki's flashback or the way this actually wraps up her story in a fairly satisfying way, but no, that stuff is nice, but not why this gets 54th place. That's thanks to Ween, and I'm not even joking. Number 53, Muse Season 2, Episode 2. I think this is one of the better training camp episodes in the series, mainly because of a lot of humorous and heartfelt moments. Umi getting into hiking gear and going on a melodramatic trip into the mountains clearly ranks as one of the best, as does Rin and Nico running frantically down a hill into the river. Speaking of Nico, we get a quiet moment where she shares roasted sweet potatoes with Maki. You gotta love to see the Nico Maki representation. Number 52, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 3. While Sunshine stands out more and more from Muse as the series goes on, this episode is certainly the most guilty of copying the Muse playbook. While I generally see this as a somewhat worse version of the Start Dash episode, I don't dislike this entry by any means. In fact, there's a particularly memorable detail that makes me love this episode close to the end. See, there's this trope where something goes wrong during a performance, but the main characters keep singing and playing regardless and everything works out fine. If you want to see an example of this trope in action, this happens in an episode we already covered, Nijion Season 1, Episode 10. Something similar starts to happen when the storm suddenly knocks out the power in the auditorium. While the girls start continuing to sing, we get to Chica's verse and things just fall apart. Her voice breaks as she tries to sing, shakily singing lyrics about pressing forward and not giving up. And then she just stops. Of course, Mito comes in and reveals that the reason the auditorium was empty was because Chica told her the wrong time. Ties back nicely to the Baka Chica gag earlier in the episode, which Chica references in this moment as well. While not too far from the original trope, this has always been one of my favorite moments from Sunshine's first season. Number 51, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 3. I really like the concept of this entry. It revolves around a simple but fun idea. The group has to be in two places at once, so what do? Much of the episode involves a variety of shenanigans trying to answer this question, including a lottery decided by the unluckiest member of the cast. Yuha gets selected by having her duel Daya in rock, paper, scissors to see if her luck was good enough. She actually wins though, but only because Hanamaru spanks her. I am not exaggerating, that is exactly what happens. And of course she goes on to fail the lottery in spectacular fashion, because what did you expect was going to happen? The best thing about this episode is how Chica ultimately figures out a uniquely new Mazu solution to the problem, riding the Mikan collecting cart things between the two performance locations. I love seeing the characters all go on this big marathon of sorts just to be able to perform both shows as a full group. It shows how much they care for each other and provides a really fun conclusion with 2 insert songs. While the latter song is alright, which I'll put the name of on screen because I'm too lazy to pronounce it, the first is anything but. My Tonight is easily one of the highlights of early Sunshine Season 2. The composition and the outfits are absolutely iconic, and visually the performance matches the song's energy with a lot of excellent visuals and movement. I don't think there's any Love Live episode with a plot quite like this, let alone with 2 insert songs. Number 50, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 11. From what I can tell, people's opinions of Sunshine are determined pretty strongly by 2 factors: how much they view it as a repeat of the original series, and whether they like the school closing arc. For people who do not like this storyline, this episode is likely to rank low because it is squarely focused on one final send-off festival. This obviously is not the case for me, given that this is in B+ tier. Most of this episode is probably a solid B, with some funny moments like Shiitake spooking the girls. At the conclusion, Mari gives a closing speech and starts to apologize profusely for failing to save the school. Regardless though, the other students then start to chant Akuwa in a show of support. Also, Kanan proposes to Mari. Number 49, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 10. Fly me to the moon and let me play among us. As the end of the series draws near, the third years realize that their life trajectories will lead them physically away from each other. Regardless, they all vow to continue being a part of each other's lives. Also, Mari has a car now. This is one of the best additions to her character, hands down. Being able to fly a Volkswagen through the sky with pure shiny power is just so absurd, I love it. Penis! Number 48, Muse Season 1, Episode 8. At roughly 50 places higher than its first half, we arrive at the second half of the LA recruitment arc. The first half, to reiterate, I put as low as I did mostly because of personal indifference over any real notable issue with its contents. As should be readily apparent, those same flaws do not apply to its conclusion. With Ellie's backstory and extraordinary skills now readily apparent, the cast decides to ask her to coach them. Ellie cautions that it'll be tough, but Muse has got this. Oh, nope, never mind, turns out they don't. Having failed to live up to her expectations, Ellie turns to head back downstairs but gets stopped by Hanukkah. The interaction leads the audience to believe Hanukkah will say something confrontational, but she doesn't. Instead, she thanks her and formally expresses an interest in having Ellie coach them again. This is a sentiment the group makes clear that they share too. Overwhelmed, Ellie runs away. With a bit of encouragement from Nozomi and the right words from Hanukkah, she decides to give being a school idol a try. Speaking of Nozomi, she joins too, revealing that she gave the group its name. According to her, the cards said there'd be 9 members, which is why they got called Muse after the 9 Greek goddesses of music. Of all the group names in the series, I find the original has one of the best. Sure, there's some meaning to be found in names like Leela or Rebirth, but Muse has a level of creativity and inspiration that, at least to me, supersedes most. Number 47, Niji Season 1, Episode 8. When I usually hear about Shizuku, it's typically either people shipping her with Kazumi, or talking about how much they love Solitude Rain, or how she can pull sandwiches out of her ass. Do I even need to give a synopsis for this one? We got so many goodies. A great insert song, some heartfelt character moments, and Kazumi straight up decking her friend in the face! Almost. When I think of that moment, my mind always goes to that one Ska Harumi comic where Kazumi accidentally punches Shizuku right in the nose. They're one of my favorite Love Live artists, so please check out their work if you haven't already. Number 46, Muse Season 1, Episode 9. Kotori is a character in this series I admittedly don't think about as much as others, and I don't really have a reason why. I think it's just more because I engage and think about the cast of Aqua, Niji, and Leela a lot more than the original series. The highlight of her character is easily the Wonder Zone episode. Initially, Kotori was too shy and lacked the confidence to stand on her own 2 feet. Thanks to Honoka's encouragement, however, she begins to change for the better. Here, Kotori takes up the role of a maid, giving her the chance to do something independent of Honoka and help build her confidence. It's one of the best character episodes, arguably the best character episode that Muse Season 1 has to its name. Too bad this character development is almost instantly reverted, right? Like, what was the point of Kotori getting more autonomy if she goes right back to, actually, I need you, Honoka, 2 episodes later? I said it earlier and I'll say it again, it's just a waste of potential. Number 45, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 10. This is just a fun little entry with some memorable gags. Ruby gets overwhelmed by spiciness, Dia tries to lure in scrubs with Kanon's body, and Mario Hara stomach growling ASMR. What isn't there to love? Number 44, Muse Season 1, Episode 4. The series wastes no time in getting our first years on board. While each has their own reservations, Hanayo's shyness proves to be the biggest obstacle of the bunch. She becomes the main focus of the episode, getting encouragement and vocal training from Rin and Maki respectively. At the runtime's conclusion, Hanayo officially joins Muse, along with the other first years. What strikes me the most about this episode is that it manages to juggle the development of 3 characters quite well. While we've seen glimpses of other cast members, Maki's the only first year that was explored prior to this entry. It makes her addition at the end along with Rin and Hanayo feel natural and built up to rather than abrupt. Interestingly, this is just one of 2 times in the series where every member of a year group joins in the same episode. The only other time this happened was with the Aqua third years, which we'll discuss in due time. Number 43, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 13. There's 2 things I really like about this finale. 1. There's a moment where a bunch of Chica's classmates ask her if they can join Aqua. Naturally, Chica says yes without consulting anyone else. Unfortunately, Love Live's official rules would only permit the 9 girls to take part. While somewhat silly, I think it's a nice moment that thematically fits the series and demonstrates the way Chika views Uranohoshi. Secondly, while the big plot recap before Mirai Ticket is perhaps a tad bit on the nose, there's a moment in the song that caught my attention. While I'm normally not the biggest fan of the song itself, there's a point where Chika bursts forward, singing the chorus with a key change. Interestingly, this key change is exclusive to Mirai Ticket's soundtrack version. There's also an added intro missing from the standard release as well. To me, both these changes improve the piece considerably, and makes me wonder how this version even came to be. If you want to hear it for yourself, you'll find it on Sailing to the Sunshine's second disc. Number 42, Muse Season 2, Episode 13. Here's another great ending episode. The most memorable part of this ending was right about at the end when Honoka says goodbye to the rooftop one last time. Honoka imagines apparitions of the other members talking to each other as they always have. As their voices and images fade, there's this powerful sense of finality that hits the viewer. The fun, exciting days of Muse are over. Using a mop and a bucket, Honoka writes out the symbol of Muse, bows in respect, and shuts the door one last time. It's a powerful conclusion to one of the best seasons Love Live has to offer. Number 41, Niji Season 1, Episode 2. This is the episode where we begin to see the start of what would make Niji Niji. With Kazumi as essentially the main focus, we get a bit more context surrounding the initial failure of the school idol club. The clashing goals of Setsuna and Kazumi simply didn't meet eye to eye, something our favorite gremlin is forced to wrestle with. Ultimately, she decides she wants to make a place where everyone is able to express themselves to their fullest, setting in motion the unique style of show Niji would become compared to the previous 2 iterations. Kazumi is also a blast to see dart around to get up to all sorts of shenanigans. One of my favorite gags is just over 8.5 minutes into the episode, where Kazumi is trying to find a place to practice, but then they end up next to some construction workers. It's literally so loud you can't even make out what the characters are saying, and the sub doesn't even give you any subtitles in this section. Then there's the scene where Ayumu is practicing her intro and is like, "I'm a scaredy bun, so I cry when I'm lonely!" This whole episode is such a treat. And let's not forget Kazumi's insert song. Poppin' Up is just the cherry on top. A fun and upbeat way to end an excellently well-rounded episode. Our next entry is a bit of a special one. My favorite Nijion episode was not hard to pick in the slightest. At 40th place, we have Nijion Season 1, Episode 3. This may not be the funniest episode. This may not be the best written episode. That's not the reason it's this high. Love Live and horror is an interesting combination only really explored in the fandom, with the exception of this one episode. While it's not exactly the scariest thing in the world, Mia's nightmare just oozes creativity. The striking use of blues and reds, the first-person camera, the Rina-chan boards covering the wall, it all just comes together to make one of the most unique Love Live episodes to date. You can't talk about this episode without mentioning Ayumu. Her sentient hair bun stalks Mia and creepily opens up to reveal an empty void inside, lunging at the poor girl before she awakens from her nightmare. Ayumu being chosen as the basis for an antagonizing force in a horror short? This has to be a reference to Yandere Ayumu. It's gotta be. At least I'd like to believe it is. So yeah, the creativity and unique nature of this entry has really won me over. We still get a lot more to cover, but for Nijion, the buck stops here. Number 39, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 5. On a similarly demonic note, we have the introduction episode for Yohane. Yohane's fears about embarrassing herself serve an equal purpose for both the function of the narrative and the various gags used within. One of my favorites was in the classroom, where Yohane starts talking about fortune-telling, and her classmates start to encourage her. Right before she goes full Yohane mode, Hanamaru just gives her this look that's like, "Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man." Despite Daya's rejections and her own reluctance, the group still ultimately accepts the little demon into their ranks. The symbolic passing of the feather is a really nice touch. By the way, does anybody know what pretty bomberhead is supposed to mean? Number 38, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 11. This is probably the most well-known character episode in Sunshine, and boy have I heard a variety of strong opinions about it. I've heard people say they don't like Riko driving a wedge between Yo and Chika. I've heard people say they don't like Chika for not recognizing how Yo was feeling. Given how popular Yo was back in the day, having an episode where she feels as if Chika is drifting away from her was bound to stick in people's memories. Honestly, I can get why people weren't happy with Chika in this one. Since Yo felt that Riko was replacing her, having Chika show her off as her phone screen was just yikes. The main dilemma involves the creation of the choreography, which isn't going as well with Riko being absent. Yo tries dancing beside Chika like she normally would, but they keep bumping into each other. Ultimately though, Chika makes an effort to run all the way to Yo's place in the middle of the night to try getting it right with Yo by her side. It's a sweet gesture that helps Yo realize that Riko isn't her replacement and Chika still cares a lot about her. We also got some Mario content, which was fire! Number 37, Muse Season 1, Episode 5. In this episode, Nico attacks! No, literally, that's the name of the episode. I really love the way the title sets the mood for the chaos to come. Nico causes all sorts of antics to unfold in this episode, from leaving a hate comment to stealing Hanukkah's fries. You know, while I initially wasn't the biggest fan of Nico, she's definitely grown on me both for her comedic moments and for her writing. More on that shortly. Number 36, Muse Season 2, Episode 5. Remember when Rin looked directly in the camera and said, "I'm transgender"? That was pretty cool. I always loved this episode. Haneo helping Rin to feel comfortable with being feminine is really sweet. The moment that sticks with me most is when Haneo gives Rin a gentle push of encouragement. Rin did this exact same thing for her in the first season, helping give her friend the courage to join Muse. The encouragement came full circle. Even for folks who aren't trans, I've heard stories about Rin helping folks feel more comfortable as themselves. While I personally didn't have any grand self-revelation because of this episode, this one's still something special. Number 35, Muse Season 2, Episode 4. Sitting right next door to our last entry is another great Nico episode. I like it for similar reasons as our Season 1 entry, but it has a more emotionally compelling premise. The way Nico shows care for her little sisters is really sweet and adds context to why she does the things she does. Sometimes. In my mind, Nico is a fusion of 3 different canons. Anime Nico, Manga Nico, and the Nico from School Idol Diaries. Interestingly, Manga Nico looks and acts a lot more like Anime Nozomi than Anime Nico. There's a nice scene where she's sitting at a playground with Maki, talking about UTX and mentioning that not everyone can afford to go to such a big school. Back in the anime, Nico is said to care for her siblings a lot, as her mom is typically too busy working all day. School Idol Diaries reveals that her dad was the one who taught her the Nico Nico Ni, and it's heavily implied that he died at some point earlier in her life. The more I learn about these details, the more I find Nico to be one of the most compelling, albeit tragic characters in the series. To any of you who've watched this far, kudos. I'm grateful that you're willing to listen to me blab for this long. A tiers function similarly to how I formatted the F and D tiers, with impact on the series being the main consideration. A- episodes are what I consider amazing, but with little to no greater impact on the series. Generally, the best thing about these episodes is just being really good. Number 34. Superstar Season 1, Episode 4. This is our introduction to Sumire. Need I explain why this is in the A tiers? I don't think I do, but for those of you in the back, I'll spell it out for you. Gu-so-ku-ma-shi. Sumire kidnaps Kanan, ties her up to purify her. Kanan pretends to forget, but Sumire doesn't buy it, so she starts singing the song. And they gave it a fucking echo! One of the funniest scenes in the whole damn series. Number 33. Superstar Season 2, Episode 4. Shiki-Mei is so cool. I wish lesbians were real. I'm going to be real with you. This isn't as high as it is for the quality of its plot. Shiki wants Mei to join Leela, but Mei doesn't feel capable of doing so. Where have I heard that before? Yeah, it's mostly just the first year's song and dance, but not as good as previous entries. And then there's perhaps one of the stupidest plot points in the entire series. Mei always looks like she's glaring at people, but actually, it's because she's nearsighted and constantly squinting. That is just really fucking funny. The explanation is so stupidly contrived and nonsensical, it wraps back around to being a plus, because it's hilarious. Thus, the reason for a placement in A- is revealed. Shiki bias and the funny. Shiki's style of humor instantly captured my heart upon my first viewing of Superstar Season 2. The best way I can describe her is silently chaotic. She says and does some of the most unhinged things, all while keeping a straight face. Take what she does in this episode, for example. Shiki knows Mei wants to spy on Leela, so she's like, here, take this earbud. I bugged the roof, so now you can hear what they're talking about. Then there's the point where she dresses the lab skeleton up in a wig and lab coat. She does this so Mei can be lured over to the window and see Shiki practicing with Leela. When Mei gestures for her to come here, Shiki simply returns the gesture. I can't tell if she's communicating the same thing, or just imitating for shits and giggles, and personally, that makes it even more funny. Shiki is so based. So combine my favorite Leela character doing what she does best with a laughably bad plot twist, and yeah, that's how this placement happened. Also, that thing she does with her hair is really cute. Briefly, I do want to explain myself a little bit more. See, I lowered the ranking of several episodes like Sumire Kiki, GNY11, and the Sunshine Season 2 finale in large part because I felt they were at least partly contrived. That's because I find the aspect genuinely detrimental, either to their episode or to the series at large. In this case, Mei being nearsighted isn't annoying, nor does it have a lasting negative impact. It's just like, look at this. Is this really her being nearsighted? No! Does it matter? No! Because again, I find it funny. That's the difference. Number 32. Superstar Season 1, Episode 10. Epic Work Battles of History! Mitt Romney versus Sumire Hayata! Begin! You want Mitt Romney, I wanna fuck Pomni! Compared to the plethora of characters in the series who struggle with confidence, only Yohane and Sumire suffer from a different problem. Terrible luck. This strikes me as symbolic of being a victim of circumstance. Sumire didn't struggle to get noticed because she was bad at what she does or lacked confidence. We already saw plenty of both in Episode 4. Here, the cast has to write a rap song, and Sumire clearly has what it takes to be the center. Despite training hard to fulfill the role, the response from Leela's fans was overwhelmingly in support of a different center, an extremely discouraging development. Right when Sumire is ready to give up, Kiki gifts her with a dress, a few thoughtful words, and a beautiful tiara. Then we get treated to non-fiction, an incredible insert which really isn't a rap song. Like, When I'm thinking of rap in the Love Live series, I'm thinking of Feel Alive or Ai's lyrics in Diver Diva. Oh my god though, the first time I heard Samurai whisper that "Love Me Do" right in my ear, actual shivers. Number 31, Superstar Season 3, Episode 10. Perhaps there's something to be said about the best Superstar Season 3 episode not involving the main plot. They say you only get one chance at a first impression, and the impression I got here was good enough to warrant an A-. Why? Well, it has a lot to do with Kineko. Following the first half of Season 2, Kineko mostly gets sidelined and not really developed further. I find this quite frustrating because her storyline is constructed far better than most character arcs of the latter two Superstar seasons. Thankfully, Kineko finally caught a break by getting the finale she deserved. I never even processed until this episode that Kineko and Ren had similar personalities, but once they made the connection, it just made sense. Making Kineko Ren's successor benefits the series threefold. Ren gets someone to carry the reins in her stead. Kineko gets the payoff she deserves after 2 seasons of improving herself. In a season of plots that range from good to decent to outright meaningless, we at least get a good finale for 2 of the characters who needed one most simultaneously. The first time I heard the insert song, Egal No Promise, I was blown away. Although, to be honest, that was heavily influenced by recency bias. I still think it's pretty solid though. Number 30, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 5. This is the definitive Yoha Riko episode, and I am here for it. Throughout Sunshine, we've seen Riko's fear of dogs mostly played for laughs, and this entry is no exception. Having Yoshiko request the one girl with the fear of dogs to be the one to take care of it is a funny scenario as is, but then Riko gets attached, and they start fighting over it. We also have this little critter to thank for the significantly larger critter's existence, which makes Lilaps feel a little bit more special. Imagine if Sunshine got a spin-off with Riko as the lead, and she got a dog named Nocturne. I'd watch that. I've always liked that this change of character leads to Riko getting a pug by the end of the season. The complete 180 is a fun little quirk that plays well into her more chaotic side. You know who else plays well into her chaotic side? My mom! Just kidding, it's Yoha. No matter how straight-laced Riko tries to act, Yoshiko seems to effortlessly corrupt her with her antics. This whole Lilaps Nocturne affair is just a perfect illustration of their dynamic, creating an incredibly fun and memorable entry. One last thing before I move on. Riko's mom has got it going on! She's all that I want and I've waited for so long! Riko, can't you see? You're just not the girl for me! I know it might be wrong, but I'm in love with Riko's mom! Number 29, Muse Season 1, Episode 1. At last, we arrive where it all began. I've ranked a couple first episodes already, but I wasn't really sure where to put the best ones. I felt they were best placed in A-, as they typically start off their respective journeys quite well. It might be surprising to see Muse at the bottom of the best firsts, but I just have slightly more emotional attachment to the others. Regardless, having the episode's intro eventually loop back to the conclusion at the end is iconic, Honoka dancing in traffic is funny, it does everything a series beginning should, superbly. Number 28, Genjitsu no Yohane Episode 1. While the rest of GNY was honestly more of a letdown than a plus, I still remember how excited this first episode made me on my initial watch. The reveal of the conflict does feel genuinely grand and full of potential, even if that was eventually squandered. But that's later. What matters is what's shown here, and what's shown is a series of fresh takes on the Aqua cast that hypes you up for what's to come. And as for the insert song, oh my god, the insert song. Far, Far Away is a gorgeous composition that utilizes Yoha's incredible vocals to their fullest. I will go so far as to say it's one of my favorite insert songs in the entire franchise. What an incredible way to set the stage for this spin-off series. Number 27, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 1. While it follows the format of the first Muse episode a bit, this is by no means an outright copy. Rather than focusing on what Ono Kazaka means to Honoka and the people around her, the personal aspirations of the characters take center stage in Sunshine. This is where we get introduced to Riko, a girl struggling to find confidence and inspiration. We have Yo, who just wants to do something fun with her best friend. Then we have Chika, the seemingly optimistic girl who privately harbors a strong distaste for her own normalcy. It's why she strives to become something more, something greater, a normal monster. There's something about Aqua that strikes me as more personal than the original series, and I think this episode captures that exceptionally well. Number 26, Superstar Season 2, Episode 2. This is where Kineko is at her best plot-wise. While I've made it extremely clear how I feel about the way the first years got treated throughout Season 2, this is the one case where I feel the plotline actually works exceptionally well. Compared to a group worthy of pursuing Love Live, The unathletic, seemingly unremarkable Kineko isn't going to magically be at their level from the get-go. Virtually, no matter who Leela could try to recruit, the skill difference would be extremely noticeable. That wasn't a Kineko problem, it was an anyone problem, and that's what makes all the difference. We see throughout this runtime that Kineko is struggling big time to keep up, and when other girls at the school see her overexerting herself, they come to the conclusion that being an idol would be way too hard for them. Because it is hard! For the first group that expanded its cast across seasons, this is an incredibly natural and engaging premise. Seeing the group struggle with whether to simplify the regimen or simply give up on getting new recruits is a challenge to the very concept of Leela. If the goal of the group is to connect and unite people of different stripes, then being too hard is an active detriment to that ambition. But at the end of the day, Kineko chooses to tough it out and do what she can to catch up. She doesn't want things eased up for her sake. She wants to try her best to take the harder path and achieve her ambitions. Seeing Kineko get gradually better and better despite her shortcomings is one of the best things about this season. Number 25, Niji Season 1, Episode 7. Kanata has to be my favorite take on a sleepy character. Rather than simply sleeping a lot out of laziness or anything like that, she's tired from overworking herself. Since her inception, Kanata has had a younger sister named Haruka, and I am incredibly happy their relationship as siblings got fully explored in the anime. With Kanata overworking herself, Haruka considers quitting being an idol to ease the burden on her sister. Unsure of how to resolve the situation, Kanata briefly considers the same action for the same reason. The love between them is incredibly wholesome, and gets represented perfectly by the insert song, Butterfly. This has one of my favorite lyrical choices in any Love Live song by including the words Haruka Kanata. Not only does this directly reference the two subjects of the song, but it communicates the importance of the names given to the Konoe sisters. Absolute cinemanata. It was not hard to pick my favorite Superstar Season 2 episode. Number 24. Superstar Season 2, Episode 7. Come on, you knew it had to be this one. Making the supposedly straight-laced, prim and proper Ren into a gaming addict is one of the wildest ideas Superstar has come up with, and I'm here for it. Humor is the one thing Love Live Superstar has been consistently good at throughout virtually its entire runtime. Given that the entry is like 90% humor, this is one hell of a treat. Ren's outlandish fears about being outed and judged for gaming addiction are over the top in perfect Ren fashion. When Mei finds out about this, Ren begs her not to tell, nearly slashing the poor girl with her ponytail. Twice. And then, this develops into a misunderstanding, as Shiki ends up convincing some of the cast that the two girls are in love. And then there's the part where she starts playing a game and everything fast forwards. And then there's the part where she's playing Beat Saber. And the part where Mei tries out the ridiculous amount of gaming things Ren has. Like this thing I shall dub the Super Spherical Spinny Mobobber. And then who can forget the Maru, Janai, or Shiki flat out asking Mei if she's in love. Or the part at the end where she says she's leading her on like, oh my god, get a room you two. Oh, but it gets better. There's a particular part of the soundtrack that plays and the cast starts assuming Ren is in love with Mei. The title of this piece is called Koi no Triangle, or Love Triangle. I just discovered this while writing this section of the script. There was a whole other layer to this joke I didn't even know until just now. Holy shit. Number 23, Genjutsu no Yohane, Episode 3. Knocking off another best of a season, we have, in my opinion, the pinnacle of G&Y. While most episodes didn't really use the fantasy element well, this is by and large the best exception. I'm so glad Daya took a page out of Tsubasa Symphogear's book and became a motorcycle riding swords lady. In almost every respect, Daya has the best designs in the entire spin-off. Getting to see her in action during a fight scene set to the tune of Be As One, genuinely one of the coolest things conceptualized for this entire franchise. Even once that wraps up, we get treated to the eerie yet beautiful environment of Warsheimer Island. The whole place is ominous yet beautiful, with all sorts of glowing lights and sea creatures floating about in the air. Even the interior of Mari's castle keeps this appeal, filled with penguin statues and a myriad of critters hanging around. There's even a collection of bubble effects, as if the whole area was submerged below water. I really wish we got to see more of the island or even had the finale take place here. It's really a shame what became of G&Y, because this episode shows me just how much potential the series had for unique fantasy locations. Still, I'm glad we got it. We wouldn't have gotten this gorgeous episode without it. Number 22, Niji Season 1, Episode 1. Plot is not exactly the strongest part of Nijigasaki's anime, but I gotta admit, it starts off with a bang. While a lot of first episodes focus on the group's initial formation and introducing the main cast, the focus here is mostly on Yu and Ayamu. While going about their regular day-to-day lives, by pure chance, they come across Setsuna performing chase. I couldn't think of a better way to introduce Setsuna and get you hooked on school idols. They try finding the club, but much to their dismay, Nana appears before them and declares it disbanded. While it seems they are returning to their regular lives once more, Setsuna's dragged them into idol hell and there's no leaving anytime soon. Aimu gradually starts to get an interest in becoming a school idol, and eventually she confesses this to you. After walking up a set of stairs, she takes a deep breath, starts to sing, and we get treated to dream with you. I always love that the music doesn't immediately start, providing a few precious seconds where all we hear is her start to sing. I remember upon first viewing, I just felt so excited for what was to come thanks to that little addition alone, like a warm welcome to the next generation of Love Live. Number 21, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 9. Here we have the conclusion of the Aqua Third Years arc. Come on, the final confrontation in the club room between Kanan and Mari, iconic. Having them finally get their feelings through in the place where they should have years ago is a thematic touch I really appreciate. Just prior to it, Mari is shown slowly running her hands over the faded marker on the board, before letting her head thump uselessly against it in defeat. The longing and regret shown by her body language alone is phenomenal. After all of Kanan's stubbornness and unwillingness to communicate, Mari finally gets to release all that frustration with one big slap across the face. You can even see Kanan's cheek ripple from the impact as it's captured in slow motion. Much in the same way that it made sense for Maki to join immediately after Rin and Haneo did, Daya's quick addition feels more than earned. With how present she's been in the story and with Ruby inviting her to join, how could she ever say no? But of course, the real highlight is the best insert in Sunshine Season 1, Mijuku Dreamer. It fits the moment perfectly. There's this part I love with an impressively smooth transition between 2D and 3D animation that I didn't even notice on my first watch. This visually and compositionally beautiful piece holds a special place in my heart as one of my favorite insert songs in the series. It's just on another level. Number 20, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 4. This is probably one of the most overlooked entries from Sunshine's catalog. You could probably argue that this is retreading some old ground with its similarities to Rin and Haneo's character arcs. Hell, Rin even makes an indirect appearance. I will admit, there is a lot of Muse pictures shown off in this episode. I will defend Sunshine's references to the original series more often than not, but here it's a bit too on the nose for me to write off. Still, I didn't put this as high as I did without reason. There's 3 characters in this episode who really make it special: Hanamaru, Ruby, and Daya. While Hanamaru plays a big part and even serves as a partial narrator, the dynamic between the Kurosawa sisters is the predominant focus. We get some backstory on how Ruby reading IO magazines helped her to form a friendship with Hanamaru. It's through this medium that Maru's own interest was sparked, seeing her own story paralleled by Rin's. Being a country bumpkin with little to no stamina, however, she didn't think live performances were within her capabilities. As for Ruby, she forced herself not to be one because she simply wasn't allowed to. Knowing how much her friend wished to be one despite Daya's wishes, Hanamaru encourages her to pursue her dreams instead of burying those feelings for the sake of others. Rather poetically, Ruby in turn helps convince Hanamaru to be a school idol, a desire buried due to feelings of inadequacy. My favorite scene, however, is right after Ruby scales the steps of the shrine. We discover that in Hanamaru's quest to help Ruby, she invited Daya out to where they were practicing to ask her one thing, to hear what Ruby has to say. When Ruby inevitably comes across her, she finally works up the courage to speak her mind. Daya says to herself that she understands what Ruby wants, and yet, when Ruby does speak, she's surprised. It's not her little sister's desire that surprises her, it's the fact that seemingly for the first time, she made a decision for herself. I love going back and watching episode 4 because in context, everything in this episode has a whole new layer to it. Daya randomly starts discouraging Ruby from engaging with school idols to protect her from something similar to what happened with Kanan and Mari. We briefly see Mari express joy that Ruby's found what she's been searching for, but Daya says she doesn't know what she's talking about. Ruby may have joined Aqua, but there's no joy because she knows what's coming eventually. As some fans of my Love Live videos already know, I absolutely love the writing of the Kurosawa sisters. Hell, they are outright the 2 best written Love Live characters in my eyes. Seeing the start of that beautiful arc here is always a treat. Everything in A tier at least moderately benefits the series. By now, we've reached past the farthest extent of several seasons. Who do you think will outlast the others? Muse? Aqua? Niji? Superstar? Let's go ahead and see. Number 19, Muse Season 1, Episode 10. Never before has a beach episode mattered so much. This one is absolutely iconic for so many reasons. Nozomi helping Maki to open up, the pillow fight where Ubi becomes a raid boss, Honoka waking people up because she's snacking too loud. There's just so much to love about this episode. The contribution it gives to the series is a demonstration of the bonds of friendship between the Muse cast. With Nozomi's help, Maki is able to loosen up and really get involved with everyone, getting the chance at the end to thank Ellie for all her help. Its comedy and heart make it a staple of Muse's anime catalog. Speaking of Muse, we have arrived at the highest ranked episode from its first season. Number 18, Muse Season 1, Episode 3. Need I explain myself? It's the Start Dash episode, of course it's gonna be the top pick for its season. The hype before the reveal of the empty auditorium, the vow to eventually fill it, being one of the most incredible precedents set for the entire series. If for some reason you don't understand what's so important about this entry, I'm shocked you made it this far into the video. In fact, I won't explain myself. You know why it's important, it's fucking Start Dash! Number 17, Superstar Season 1, Episode 1. This earns itself the award for the best first episode by a landslide. While most firsts had to spend a lot of time introducing all the characters and their opinions on what the central plot was, we get to have more time dedicated to introducing the plot with only 5 characters involved. Other than Sumire, who is best saved for later anyway, each character was introduced in a way that benefits the plot well. We start out seeing Kanon playing her guitar and excitedly talking about her hopes for the future, only to cut to a scene of her failing to get into the music program because of her anxiety. We then see a grumpy Kanon covering her ears with headphones, singing aloud as she runs, grabbing the attention of one Kiki Tang. Chasing after Kanon and reverting to speaking in Mandarin, her unrestrained excitability is established from the get-go. Chisato, helping to make sure Kiki doesn't follow after her friend, keeps an eye out as Kanon cowers in fear. We see she's wearing a music program uniform, helping establish a distinction between the curriculums. After a bit of Kiki shenanigans, Ren confronts her about trying to start a school idol club. Despite her own reluctance and Kiki's persistence, we see Kanon's good nature as she sticks up for her. Everything flows really smoothly while we get some great characterization, full of plenty of humor and heart. Number 16, Sunshine Season 1, Episode 12. For much of Sunshine's first season, Chika tried to emulate Honoka. Here, they visit Onokazaka to try and figure out what made them special. Running into a random student, Aqua gets told Muse intentionally left nothing behind. What was important was all they did with and for each other, and it's from here Chika begins to understand the direction Aqua should take. Going to the same beach where Muse decided to disband, they together create a goal for themselves, to go from 0 to 1. Chika thanks Honoka for inspiring her, now committed to leading Aqua down its own path, wherever that may be. This is a change reflected fully in the season to come, with their own story taking a wildly different path and creating their own legacy. While some might call Season 1 a little too nostalgia pandering, I think the references to the original series are handled thoughtfully while allowing the cast to develop their own identity over time. By Season 2, Aqua is very firmly its own thing, and this episode was a big part of how that came to be. My favorite touch is at the very end of the episode, where the Muse poster on Chika's wall has been taken down. She won't be gazing up longingly at it any longer. Number 15, Superstar Season 1, Episode 3. So it turns out Kanon is still too anxious to sing after all. With their concert fast approaching and Kanon being unable to bring herself to sing, Kiki and Chisato try their best to help her. With Kiki's dreams riding on getting first at the fest, and Sunny Passion suddenly taking part, the future of the group starts looking bleak. They even entertain the idea of Kanon not singing at all if that's what it takes to perform. Kanon eventually breaks down in tears, blaming herself for ruining her friend's dreams before they even have a chance to begin. Kiki reassures her though, that she wants to be up on that stage with her. Motivated once more, Kanon decides to sing and try her best regardless of her anxiety. Once they get up on stage and the weight of the moment sets in, things start taking a turn for the worse as even Kiki feels overwhelmed, saying "Daijobu, Daijobu" over and over again. And then the power goes out. Luckily, some quick thinking from Chisato gets the crowds waving their lights in the air. It's here Kanon gains some much needed confidence, realizing she's not alone. It's here we're treated to Tiny Stars, a beautiful insert song that perfectly caps off this emotional rush of an episode. The stakes, the emotion, the story, it's just immaculate. Number 14, Superstar Season 1, Episode 11. At the very start of this series, we saw Kanon's first real instance of getting paralyzed by anxiety. Now, Kanon is asked to perform on the very same stage she once was unable to sing upon as a kid. There was a flashback to a particular spot off the side of the stage, beneath a map of the world. It was here when she was younger that she said she wanted to share her feelings with the world, something her anxiety prevented her from accomplishing. In that same place, She imagines her younger self as she was back then, scared and afraid. She puts a hand on her cheek, comforting and reassuring her. Finally, she goes out there herself, overcoming the anxiety that had kept her down for so long. I'm not afraid to admit, the first time I watched this, I shed a single manly tear when she sang Watashi no Symphony. As someone with anxiety myself, I can't help but relate a lot to Season 1 Kanon. Even if I'm not really a fan of how her character was handled in later seasons, here, she's perfect. Number 13, Muse Season 2, Episode 6. This gets the Best Group Episode award for a reason. It's Halloween time, and the cast is prepping for a bit of friendly competition with Arise. To try and make the biggest impression at a Halloween event, the group tries a variety of ideas, like dressing up in costumes, dressing up as each other, and most iconically, like Kiss. Fun fact, apparently this actually got noticed by Gene Simmons, the co-founder of Kiss. So that's pretty neat. Anyway, ultimately, Honoka realizes that the group doesn't need to rebrand. What makes Muse so important is what each member brings to it. I really like that we got an entertaining episode that puts an emphasis on the aspect of what makes the group so special. And just to top it off, we also get the insert song Dancing Stars on Me. Another fun fact, this is actually my second favorite Muse song. I would say it's my favorite, but Loneliest Baby is way too damn catchy. Number 12, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 6. Capping off the A tier is one of my absolute favorite Love Live episodes, let alone from Sunshine. With the Nationals coming up, there's pressure on Aqua to knock this one out of the water, especially since Mirai Ticket wasn't able to secure a victory last time. In order to win, Mari suggests bringing out her secret weapon, an old dance formation from back when it was just Daya, Kanon, and Mari. The problem is, this was the formation that caused Mari to get injured, and if anyone gets hurt, that would almost certainly mean disqualification. Kanon thinks it's too risky, and even opts to try throwing the notebook in the ocean, but Mari leaps after and falls in the water, managing to snag it back from the brink. Reluctantly, Kanon agrees to let Chika try it out, but the first results aren't promising. Time after time, Chika tries it out but can never seem to pull it off. But she doesn't give up. The day gives into the night, and yet Chika's determination is stubborn and relentless. Here on full display is the level of dedication and physical exertion Chika is willing to undergo for Aqua. We also get a lot of discussion about Chika's character, and how the normal girl she thinks of herself as isn't what she's grown to be. She's the force that united Aqua, working exceptionally hard to see her ambitions through. After a full night of grueling training, we are finally treated to the fruits of her labor, Miracle Wave. I can hardly think of a more iconic piece of Love Live choreography than Chika pulling off that one incredible flip. Immediately after she sticks the landing, the other cast members pop on screen simultaneously, allowing them to share the excitement of the moment with the viewer. What else can I say? I adore Chika, and I adore this episode for what it does with her character. We've covered a couple amazing episodes by now, but only 5 of them are good enough to reach the prestigious A+ tier. This is a tier reserved for fantastic episodes that strongly benefit the series. Anything that's here is here for a very good reason. Number 11, Muse Season 2, Episode 11. With Nico, Ellie, and Nozomi graduating soon, there's one question that hangs over the group. What's going to become of Muse? If the group continued, they wouldn't be able to together as a full group of 9 anymore. That problem alone makes the answer clear. Once the third years graduate, Muse will be disbanded. To make the most of the time they have left, the group goes around having fun doing all the things they've wanted to do together. Everyone is having fun, enjoying each other's company, and then we get to the train station scene. It starts with Hanayo. She gives a laugh, but it quickly transforms into sobs. One by one, everyone starts to burst into tears, hugging each other and letting their sorrow flow. Nico tells them to stop being crybabies, but it's clear she's struggling to hold it together herself. When Nozomi embraces her, Nico begins wailing louder than anyone else. The emotion, melancholy, and sorrow on display is heart-wrenching. It's a big part of what makes the last stretch of Muse Season 2 one of the most incredible, if not the most incredible ending in all of Love Live. Out of every story arc in the entirety of Love Live, my favorite has and always will be the Saint Snow arc from Sunshine Season 2. I debated a bit over which to put above the other, but now I can say conclusively that the first outdoes the second, if only by a slight margin. This is because the first episode is, to me, just about as perfect as a Love Live episode can get. It's memorable, it's visually and thematically beautiful, and has a special place in my heart for reasons we'll get into shortly. The second half still has a lot of great moments, but there are a few slower parts such as when they hang out at the playground. However, there is one great equalizer. Sunshine Season 2, Episode 9 concludes with my favorite insert song in the entire franchise, awaken the power. It's no secret I absolutely love Saint Snow. Concluding this incredible character arc with Ruby and Leia unleashing their true potential together, I can't put into words just how much I adore it. The development of the Kurosawa sisters, the involvement of Saint Snow, the grandiose composition, all of it. It emotionally resonates with me in a way no other insert before or since ever will. Okay, this is going to sound a little bit out of pocket, but My Chemical Romance. You know that big hit of theirs, Welcome to the Black Parade? And how there's that part at the end where it concludes powerfully with the "We'll carry on," and the drums create this marching sound? That's the same vibe I get from the end of Awaken the Power. Maybe it's a bit of a wild comparison, but the whole "my power, new power" to the sound of the marching drums, just holy shit. It's such a beautifully dramatic way to end it off on. So how does the first top all that? We need to talk a bit about the Kurosawa sisters. Throughout her life, Ruby was unable to do much on her own, but Daya was there to provide encouragement and protect her. After what happened with Mari and Kanon, Daya distanced herself from idols to protect Ruby from experiencing the same things. But then, Ruby found the confidence to speak up for herself. Even though Mari said Ruby had finally found her dream, Daya knew what was coming. All she could do was give Ruby the chance to grow and tell her to be strong. After the failure in Tokyo, Daya doesn't reprimand her. She embraces her and says that Ruby did her best. In this arc, the final step of Ruby's transformation begins. Number 9. Sunshine Season 2, Episode 8. After witnessing Saint Snow's abrupt failure, the group looks around Hokkaido to find a small restaurant. By pure chance, it turns out to be the residence of the Kazuno sisters. Leia states she's going to quit being a school idol, and the cast is left to ponder about why. The one to put the pieces together is Ruby. It's because Sarah will be graduating and won't be there anymore. After accidentally letting slip that she saw Leia crying, she gets overwhelmed and runs out of the restaurant. Daya follows her, and what comes next is my favorite scene in the entire franchise. Ruby sits alone on a bench overlooking the river. Daya asks if Leia told her the reason for quitting, and Ruby says no. She figured it might be the case, because she felt the same about Daya. Daya is also in her 3rd year, and that means she will have to move on too. After how hard Daya worked to be a school idol, Ruby knows it's only a matter of time before it's over. But Daya says she's satisfied. She got to keep going with Kanon and Mari, Aqua, and more than anyone, Ruby. Upon hearing her name, Ruby throws off her jacket, embracing Daya from behind while the music kicks in. As she always has, Daya comforts her little sister. Ruby responds by expressing her wish not to be left behind. But now, Daya tells her she's grown. She tells Ruby how proud she was to see her make a decision on her own. With this motivation, Ruby gets the courage to talk to Leia, tell her about Daya, and convince her to take part in a show together, one last show for their sisters. I can't think of a single other character dynamic in Love Live that can resonate with me more than Ruby and Daya. We've talked about a couple Love Live performances in this list already. To me, there are 2 important factors that make them truly great: having emotional weight and capturing the spirit of the group. The indifference and frustration I felt towards the later Superstar entries is a good example of a failure to meet either criteria. If I rewatched the Superstar Season 3 Love Live, maybe I'd feel a bit more positive about the song capturing the feeling of Leela. As for Season 2's performance, I watched it twice and was left with no substantially positive feedback. Without a good plot to back them up, both were doomed to fail. While Niji never officially went to Love Live, its Season 2 finale got substantially higher by doing a far better job. Future Parade captures the essence of Niji perfectly. Sure, it had little in the way of a plot to assist the moment, but that isn't to say thematic significance was absent. When it comes to putting on an incredible finale at Love Live, it's the first 2 groups who truly deliver. While having a good plot to back up a finale is self-explanatory, I think I should clarify what I mean by the spirit of the group. The songs each group produces has a distinct sound and identity, forged in part by the combination of their voices. When you think of Muse, songs like Snow Halation or Yume no Tobira are probably first to come to mind. For Aqua, you may think of Azora Jumping Heart or Aquarium. For Niji, Nijiro Passions. For Superstar, Watashi no Symphony, so on and so forth. This is what I believe a Love Live performance should strive to be, being able to capture that essence and elevate it with a grandiose sense of finality. For Aqua, their spirit is captured perfectly by Water Blue New World. It's difficult to articulate in words what exactly makes the composition befit the group. It just sounds right. The most exemplary portion is the chorus, which sounds to me like other iconic Aqua songs while taking that energy to a whole new level. The feeling is driven home as the misty terrain dissipates, revealing the same stage Aurora Jumping Heart was performed on in Season 1's OP. There's also some brief shots of the girls on the same projector that introduced Chica to Muse. We see two girls, much like Chica and Yo at the series onset, who become enraptured by the performance. Both of these details make for an incredible emotional climax that brings the story of Sunshine full circle. But as for the best Love Live performance, to me, nothing beats the original. Number 7, Muse Season 2, Episode 12. When Muse finally began their Love Live performance, I won't lie, I wasn't blown away by the song they played. Like, it was a good song, but it wasn't enough to have its sound or name embedded in my memory like Water Blue New World. But once the song ends, something occurs that is yet to happen since. The crowd starts calling for an encore. Hanukkah gets moved to tears, and what do we see next but the Season 1 opening? Honestly, I'm kind of glad I wasn't astounded by the first song, because the surprise encore just elevates the excitement that much more. While there are certainly good and even amazing songs that would follow, to me, the creativity and excitement exuded by this finale has yet to be matched since. While A tier was the polar opposite of D and F tiers, the very top of this list gets its own unique criteria. Our final 6 belong to S tier, a special selection of my absolute favorite episodes. While F tier was suitable enough for my most hated entries, I wanted to have a top spot without the A+ series impact restrictions. Instead, these are the ones that had the biggest impact on me. Without further ado, let's get to the best of the best, starting with my favorite episode of Nijigasaki. I've already talked about my first impressions with Niji, how I was most interested in Emma until I found myself disappointed with how she was handled. While I still like her a good deal, the main subject of my attention has shifted elsewhere. I often have trouble selecting my favorite girl from Nijigasaki. Aimu and Setsuna are two of the ones I often gravitate towards, but there's one character I relate to more than just about any other in the series. That character is Rina. Number 6, Niji Season 1, Episode 6. Something you have to understand about me is that I'm autistic. I made a video ranking every Love Live episode in the entire series, what did you expect? I find Rina's struggles deeply relatable to my own experiences as someone on the spectrum. In fact, I even made a video on my channel discussing this at length. One of the moments I love most is one particular shot towards the start. We hear Rina's internal monologue as she meets Ai, noticing that she's an upperclassman and finding her scary. When the bodacious blonde notices Rina's ticket, she accidentally frightens her new pink pal into surrendering it to her. We get this underneath shot of Rina's blank expression surrounded in darkness, communicating her fear in a subtle but impactful way. Ai means no harm, of course, but regardless, it's a really memorable interaction. We see Rina trying to change for the better throughout the runtime, but ultimately the same anxieties over her facial muteness persist. It isn't until the main cast visits her that we're able to change her perspective. Rather than trying to change who she is, it's by embracing herself that Rina finds a way to solve her dilemma, the Rina-chan board. Growing up, I also felt like I had to change who I was to improve as a person, and much like Rina, I grew to understand the flaw in that logic. Becoming happy with who I am was a significant milestone for me, and seeing it exemplified through Rina created an emotional attachment on a deeply personal level. Before we get to our next entry, allow me to make a confession. Surprisingly, the first time I watched Love Live Sunshine, I didn't actually like Daya. It wasn't really for any well-founded reasons, mostly I just thought she was mean to Chica and Ruby. Of course, as Daya is now my second favorite Love Live character, period, for reasons I've made abundantly clear, what happened? Well, this is the episode that helped to start that change. Number 5, Sunshine Season 2, Episode 4. To be honest, there's a different reason this got so high. Come on, you know where this is going by now. It's the funny. Daya notices the other girls calling Kanan and Mari Kanan-chan and Mari-chan respectively. She wants to get closer and drop the formalities, and thus begins her quest to figure out how. Many hijinks ensue. The Century is great in the same way that Ren's Gamer episode was, taking a serious character and making them profoundly unserious in the best way possible. Daya's attempts to appear friendly and outgoing backfire horrendously, to the point that some of the characters get visibly frightened of her. Chica and Hanamaru get scared as she fails to react when they overload a sink with bubbles and fumble a bowl onto her head. Their only logical conclusion is that she's incredibly angry. Yo and Yoshiko also get freaked out later on, with Daya's unnatural cheer sending a chill even down her spine. Yo is on the same page. Yoshiko then says, according to the subs I was looking at, It's as though a messenger from heaven came down and realized the other world in this one. Yo has no idea what the fuck she's talking about. Now, this isn't an S tier for just a couple funny gags. We gotta talk about the dub. See, while the Japanese version has Daya wanting to drop the stiff san for the friendly chan, the English version had to do something else. Instead, Daya wants to have a nickname. Now, I'm not the type of person to rag on dubs for the sake of it, but regardless, I still prefer to watch Love Live subbed. Aside from any standard reason, both versions use the Japanese VAs for the songs. It just adds more immersion to watch it subbed. Kind of weird, because I prefer watching K-On! Dubs despite it being the same type of situation, but I'm getting sidetracked. Let's take a look at a scene from a bit earlier on. The group is trying to sell stuff to make money for their activities, and at the stand, Yoshiko presents Daya with a feather. We then get to see into her thoughts, imagining the others calling her Daya-chan in a fictitious scenario. Back in the real world, Daya starts laughing to herself like Yoshiko does, unnerving even the fallen angel herself. In the English dub. In the fucking English dub, she wants to be called girlfriend. In her flashback, she fantasizes about being called matey by Yo, girlfriend by Hanamaru, and what does she imagine Chika saying to her? Let's go, sweetie! This episode made me go out of my way to watch an episode of the dub because of how much it makes me laugh. That, along with the exploration of Daya's vulnerable side and how it changes my perspective on her, makes this one of my all-time favorites. And yet, it somehow didn't get the award for the funniest episode. That title goes to our next entry. Remember when I was laying the ground rules and said there'd be one single exception? It's finally time for it to be revealed, and I have a feeling some of you already know what I'm about to talk about. In 4th place, above all but 3 other entries, is the Aqua April Fool's Puppet Show episode. I rewatched this twice for the ranking, and both times, I had the biggest smile on my face the whole way through. Just to give you an idea of how wild this gets, first we start off with what I can only describe as a loose interpretation of the 3 little pigs. Also, the wolf is a coelacanth. They run away and run into Kanon, who is doing exercise with what her and Chika call a turtle. It's actually just a coelacanth again. Chika then assumes Kanon is tormenting the turtle, proceeds to beat the shit out of her, and throw her into a bush. And they go to a coelacanth school where Mari's the princess of the Dragon Palace for some reason, and then a bunch of coelacanths beat up Rico for some reason. And then they run into Daya, who has captured Hanamaru. Also, Daya is a rabbit, and Maru is a tanuki. And then they go to the Island of Demons, fight the Demon King. Again, it's a coelacanth, which Chika defeats by kissing it on the lips. And then it transforms back into Ruby, and Chika punches her in the face. To punish the demon, Chika forces her to become a school idol, where the puppets dance to a goofy version of Kimi no Kokoro played using accordions. Because why not? The creativity, the absurdity, the constant usage of coelacanths. There really isn't anything quite like this in the entire series, and honestly, that's a shame. I love when the crew takes wacky, absurd risks, and it feels like Love Live has become less ambitious with age. I don't know if it's a change in direction or just me, but I'll always appreciate this for going out of its way to be unhinged in the best way possible. While we're here, I do want to briefly mention something that didn't make the cut for the ranking. Most of what I mentioned at the start, like Sifa's stories, was never gonna happen. There was one other thing I considered, and that was the Leela April Fool's videos. I mainly just considered the 2025 one with Megalodon, and it was a tough call whether to keep or exclude it. Where to draw the line between a Love Live episode and other content can be a little murky at times. If I included the Megalodon episode, I'd have to consider other April Fool's entries like Shazalia Kiss, which is very firmly a music video. To avoid confusion, I decided to firmly draw the line at April Fool's content, with the puppet show being the single exception. While I'm technically bending my own rules to rank it, I love it too much not to. Also, it has a unique version of the Sunshine Season 1 ED, so that's my excuse. Oh, and for those curious, the Megalodon episode would probably go in B tier if I ranked it. It's a snowy day at Oronokazaka. In fact, a snowstorm is bearing down on the area and becoming a concern. With the original trio forced to remain at their school for a while longer, tension starts to mount about whether they'll even be able to make it to their performance on time. Eventually, they attempt to leave and are forced to brave a relentless blizzard on foot. Huddled together with nothing but umbrellas for protection, things start to appear bleak. Kotori encourages them, saying how they've worked so hard for this. Umi admits she isn't just following Hanukkah, She wants to perform at Love Live because she wants to herself. And then the blizzard suddenly dies down, and they see a path has been cleared for them by the other Oden no Kazaka students. As they run for the venue, they're cheered on every step of the way, making it just in time. Love Live is a story about connecting with others. In the same way that Muse was able to save the school, when they needed it most, the school was able to save Muse. I can't think of a single episode, no, a single moment that exemplifies more perfectly what Love Live is about. That alone could have gotten this into A+, but this isn't just concluded with any old song. The single most important segment of Love Live's history is followed by its most important song. Arguably, the very thing that led to Love Live becoming famous in the first place, Snow Halation. One might have assumed I put this in third place purely because of the insert, which yeah, it's absolutely incredible, but I think people often forget the moments that led up to it, making it all the more special. I don't think any episode before or since will ever be able to exemplify the spirit of Love Live quite like this. So, why is it in third place? I've ranked the entries on this list for many reasons. Their humor, their plot, their emotion, and sometimes the lack thereof. The last two got where they are because I have an intense emotional connection with them that not even Snow Halation can surpass. Let me explain why. After I lost my first YouTube channel, there was a 7 to 8 month period where I suffered through an identity crisis. I was really desperate for a specific answer to help me through it, but no matter what, those answers never stuck. One day, I was feeling particularly down. For some reason, I felt compelled to watch the ending to a particular Sunshine episode. It was by no means a random selection. This is the episode where Chika finds out, despite their best efforts, they didn't get a single vote. I chose to skip to the ending, where Chika finally speaks her mind to Riko after putting on a brave face for half the episode. I wasn't watching it for pleasure or comfort, I was watching it hoping for some form of advice. Chika says something to the effect of, "I don't know what's ahead, it could be a 0, or it could be a 1. I'll never know if I don't try." When I heard those words, something in my mind just clicked. After months of soul-searching, I finally had my answer. It was at this pivotal moment that I began to shrug off my youthful incompetence and become who I am today. I learned about philosophy, about Socrates and knowing what you do not know. I reignited my passion for history and paleontology. Chika's encouragement taught me it's okay to not always have an answer, that you never know where you'll get by simply giving it a try. I'm a stronger, wiser man thanks to Chika. Her words helped me conclude one of my life's roughest patches, and I have this episode to thank for making that happen. Sunshine Season 2 is my favorite Love Live season, so it shouldn't be a surprise this is also where my top pick resides. I won't give you a lengthy preamble. I'm sure a couple folks watching already figured out exactly what it is. This is my favorite episode of Love Live. It begins following the success of Miracle Wave. Just when everything seems up, we get the revelation that the number of applicants to Ura no Hoshi still hasn't budged. With time running out, a sense of dread lingers over the cast. There's something eerie about this entry that nothing else in the series has managed to achieve. Dread is not an emotion Love Live is typically known for, with only a couple entries from earlier series utilizing it whatsoever. In Muse, it was used as Hanuka overworked herself before fainting following No Brand Girls. In Sunshine Season 1, it was used for the Zero arc in Tokyo. In both these instances, the characters were working towards a goal, having a show to put on. The tension came from a foreboding sense that something was about to go wrong, but here, it's different. There's no show. Instead, tension arises from something completely different. Fear of an inevitable tragedy. This is probably the quietest episode the series has produced. Much of the episode doesn't even have music, and when it does, it's soft and quiet. No matter how much they want to save the school, all they can do is keep each other company, shout into the wind about how much they love their school, but it doesn't matter. There's nothing to be done. There was nothing to be done. Nothing they could do was going to stop the inevitable. They could only sit and watch as time just ran out. One of my biggest fears is having my life irreparably worsened by factors out of my control. After what happened to my first YouTube channel, I worry I'll wake up and find this channel ripped away from me as well. I worry that something will happen and prevent me from finishing Love Live Lunacy. I worry something will happen to my computer and makes me incapable of doing what I have to. I worry something will happen to my job, my family, my life. I suppose that's just part of having anxiety, or maybe that's just what it's like being alive. Perhaps a little of both. That lingering sense of existential dread is a big part of why I say and do a lot of things. Why I'm willing to sink months into a video project just to get on with the next upon completion. That's just who I am. At the end of the episode, the group gathers on the roof to discuss the future of Aqua. They all agree they want to keep going, but Chika doesn't know what the point is, with the school lost. Suddenly, all the other girls of Uranohoshi gather and give her a new goal: win Love Live, and enshrine the school's name forever. Even if she couldn't save the school from closing, she could save its memory, everything it meant to her, Aqua, and the people of Numazu. I didn't quit making YouTube videos because of what happened in the past. In a way, the event actually let me grow as a person. I'm wiser, stronger, and more aware than the person I used to be. Tragedy happens in everyone's lives. Sometimes there's a silver lining, and sometimes there isn't. The least you can do is make the most of it. Before we wrap up, let's go over all the seasons and see how they did collectively. Since I had 14 tiers, I decided to allocate points to each episode like this. Adding up all the points and dividing by the number of episodes in the season gave me an average score for each. Let's see how each season performed. To the surprise of nobody, the bottom of the barrel was Nijion. Number 12, Nijion Season 1. With an average of 6.4 out of 14, it gets a placement squarely in C tier. I initially expected Season 2 to be the lower of the Nijion seasons, but upon further reflection, I think its collection is slightly better. While there occasionally were a few surprising hits, notably the episode 3 horror entry, there's just so many problems with Nijion. Many entries are boring, many jokes just don't land, and only occasionally does it get on par with the middle-of-the-road entries from elsewhere in the series. There's only a few episodes I genuinely feel enough interest in to go and rewatch. Number 11, Nijion Season 2. With an average of 6.7 out of 14, Season 2 doesn't fare much better, C tier. It has the same problem as Season 1, although it at least was a bit more memorable with stuff like the Victory Road trilogy. 2 out of 3 OVAs being in B- also helped tip the scales a bit further. Thanks to their inclusion, the average Nijion Season 2 score rose from 6.6 to 6.7 points. It's not a lot, but it's an improvement. Number 10, Niji Season 2. With an average of 6.9 out of 14, Niji Season 2 barely surpasses its mediocre spin-off, C tier. The main appeal of Niji's first season was the focus on the characters over the actual overall plot. That's somewhat present here, but it wastes so much time on a story that progresses with little to no stakes, or at least in a way that can get me invested. Lanshu was also watered down a lot from Cephas, and scarcely plays any sort of meaningful antagonistic role. Like, that's a big part of what made her interesting in the first place. Without any meaningful pressure from her, and a collection of group episodes that I generally didn't care about, it just failed to resonate with me. Number 9, Genjitsu no Yohane. With an average of 7 out of 14, GNY barely manages to get into C+. And that's not by rounding, mind you. I only rounded to the 10th, so it quite literally got exactly enough points to reach this tier. GNY is a really fun experiment, but unfortunately the anime just flops by stifling its own creativity. This is probably the most polarizing entry, stretching as high as A- and as low as the bottom of F tier. When the series does something cool, it can be a really fun watch. Most of the time, though, it plays things painfully safe and makes decisions that are just baffling. I'm grateful we got stuff like Blaze in the Deep Blue, Numazu in the Mirage, and the original manga, because the anime might just be the worst part of the spin-off. Other than the music. I will give it credit for having some great inserts. Number 8, Superstar Season 2. With an average of 7.2 out of 14, we have another C+ that barely scrapes ahead of its competition. This isn't a Love Live season. This is a Love-Hate season, because that's the relationship I have with it. I will defend the early episodes because I really like what they do with Kineko and quickly came to love Shiki and Mei. I can't say the same about the second half, other than the Ren episode, of course. At this point, anything I could say about Superstar Season 2 would just be retreading through stuff I've already talked about. The direction with the first years was a fine enough idea, it just fell extremely flat in execution, to a greater and greater extent the later it got. Also, the ending was an obnoxious waste of time. Number 7, Superstar Season 3. With an average of 7.8 out of 14, we have a high C+, but a C+ nonetheless. Where Superstar Season 2 was obnoxious, Season 3 just felt pointless. While it has a few highs and doesn't get weighed down nearly as much by its ending, overall it fails to make me care about most of what's happening. The Kanan, Tomari, and Ween idea was interesting, but ended in the safest way possible, which was also the worst way possible. I'm glad that at least after 3 seasons, we could get a send-off that felt somewhat meaningful, I guess. I don't know what the hell I was thinking in that Season 3 review, thinking that this surpassed Season 1. Not even a goddamn chance. Number 6, Niji Season 1. With an average of 8.2 out of 14, we get our first B- in season I can speak overall positively about. I've had my qualms with Niji's anime for a while, but with time I've come to appreciate it for what it is. Even if the overarching plot isn't great, a good portion of character episodes here are among the best in the series, like Kanata and Rina. It definitely gets pretty weak from episode 10 onwards, but a majority of the season was pretty solid and well worth revisiting. Number 5, Muse Season 1. With an average of 8.5 out of 14, Love Live's very first installment gets a respectable B-. Great but has some problems is probably the best way I could describe it. While a majority of the runtime is on the same level as the best seasons on the list, I have, and always will have, a problem with the concluding Kotori arc. It's always been a strange outlier in terms of quality, as I generally regard Sunshine and Muse as consistently great. Were it not for the ending, this easily could have reached B or B+ ranked status. Number 4, Superstar Season 1. With an average of 9.8 out of 14, this jumps up a considerable amount from the last entry to a high B. While I find myself conflicted in one way or another by much of modern Love Live, this has always been the exception. Kanan is incredibly relatable, and the small cast of 5 forms a uniquely tight cast no other Love Live season possesses. Having the capacity to compete in terms of quality with the original duo is not a small feat. In fact, as represented by the average, I genuinely find Superstar Season 1 to be of superior quality to Muse Season 1. Number 3, Muse Season 2. With an average of 10.1 out of 14, our first B+ is the phenomenal Muse Season 2. This is the favorite season of many, and with good reason. With some of the most powerful and meaningful episodes in the entire series, like, I don't know, fucking Snow Halation, there's a lot to love. Even some of the more average parts, relatively speaking, like Ren and Nico's episodes are of an excellent quality. This is mainly because they were given the time and effort needed to make their story arcs land. Genuinely, the only problems I can think of were the segments about Hanukkah getting fat, and my random indifference to episode 10. It's thanks to those minor flaws that it barely fails to surpass what follows. In this list anyway. Number 2, Sunshine Season 1. With an average of 10.4 out of 14, Sunshine Season 1 manages to barely sneak ahead of Muse's magnum opus, earning itself a B+. This is probably not a common opinion, but what can I say? I'm an Aqua fan through and through. While the references to the original series certainly bug a lot of people, they don't really bother me because it serves a purpose throughout the narrative. Chika wants to be like Hanukkah, to be anything but her normal self. The most nostalgia-pandering portions thankfully happen early on, and once she comes to understand what Muse was about towards the season's tail end, she learns to chart her own path. From here on out, we barely even hear about Muse, with both Aqua and Chika becoming distinctly their own thing. Other than that, the songs are great, the cast is memorable, and again, it helped me on a deeply personal level. But as for the best season, okay, I'm not gonna bother hyping this up. I already told you what my favorite season is like 5 minutes ago. Number 1, Sunshine Season 2. With an average of exactly 11 points, our top spot manages to barely secure A-. This is Aqua at its absolute best. While the award for my favorite piece of Love Live media actually goes to the Sunshine movie, that owes its success to this season for taking the story of Aqua to new heights. Chika is my favorite character, not just in Love Live, but outright, and her journey from start to finish resonates with me in ways completely unparalleled. Everything she had to overcome is similar to my own story in one way or another. Wanting to be anything but herself, struggling against what she couldn't control, it's left an impact on me that'll last the rest of my life. Nothing in Love Live will ever surpass my love for Aqua, and by extension, Sunshine Season 2. While I let the placements and awards scroll, I just want to thank you for watching to the end. This has been a huge project for me, and I'm glad to have finally had the chance to discuss my feelings on Love Live's entirety. I'm certain many of you will have your fair share of disagreements on the placements of each episode, so please do feel free to leave your own thoughts on whatever stuck out to you. If any of you want to make your own ranking of each episode, as time-consuming of a task as that would be, I would love to see it. Also, before I forget, there's a special shoutout I want to give to someone who I doubt even knows who I am. Chikorita157, your anime blog has made the creation of this video so much less of a headache. I found it on Google while searching for information on specific episodes. Along with being able to refresh my memory, The pictures included were easy to save and use in my project. They helped me to depict specific moments I struggled to find good snapshots for elsewhere. If for some reason this video ends up in front of you, I am grateful for your unwitting contribution. For now, I think I'm gonna go rest my voice. I've talked for way too long. Take care and enjoy the stats. Bye-bye.